Hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing well, and thanks for joining us for another live stream. So I've entitled this stream, Is Flat Earth Getting Eclipsed? Yes, DSE, I am not muted this time. I've actually got a stream right for once. It's incredible. Yes, I've entitled this stream, Is Flat Earth Getting Eclipsed? And I call it that because we've just had the lunar eclipse, and then very soon on the 29th, I believe it is, we're getting a partial solar eclipse. So to answer the question, is flat Earth getting eclipsed? No, the globe's getting eclipsed because the Earth's not flat. Right, that's it. Good night, everybody. You didn't really think that was it, did you? No, I want to talk a bit about eclipses and the eclipse that's going to be happening on the 29th. There's a few other bits that I want to go through, just a few sort of housekeeping notes that I want to get through beforehand. Firstly, can I just say thank you to everybody, and by me, I mean him, say thank you to everybody for tuning in to watch the Rusty live feed that I did the other day. I didn't actually realize how many people would tune in to watch a dog sleeping on a chair, but quite a lot is the answer. So yes, I wasn't sure whether the Clive, has Rusty moved at all since the last stream? Yes, he did. He went out for a pee earlier, and then he was back on his chair. Yes, I've got the overhead cam again, so both are focused on the dog this time. I am going to do another Rusty cam stream, I think, probably maybe in the middle of the week. What I might do is maybe move this camera to move it somewhere else to cover the floor, because he does have a habit of getting off the chair and sitting on the floor. And rather than me keep getting up to move the cameras around, I might just have it so that I can switch between chair cam and floor cam. Because the point of the Rusty cam was really more a case of, Dave McKeegan, I hear an echo. Oh, so my apologies, everybody. Hang on. That is. Hopefully that should be the. Yeah, I think. Sorry, the microphone on that top camera was left open. That should be okay now, I think. Good. Okay. Yes. So typically during the day when the kids go to school, I come and work in here, and I'm usually sort of doing editing or writing up a script or whatever. And I thought, he just follows me up, he comes and sits on the chair, he just likes to be with me, and he sleeps on the chair while I work. And a few people had asked, could I do a Rusty cam? Sort of jokingly that I should just have a stream of Rusty. So I thought, why not? I thought, I'm going to be here anyway, he's there anyway, I'll do a stream, fine. The problem was the stream did somewhat distract me, and I kept having to change the cameras whenever he was moving, and so I didn't actually get as much work done as I'd intended. So I'll do another Rusty cam, but I'll probably not engage with the stream as much. I'll just probably set it up as two cameras covering either the chair or down on the floor, and then I'll just switch between the two as he moves. Sorry, I was trying to keep up with the chat. Anyway, so yes, thank you to everyone who joined the Rusty live stream. Rusty was thrilled with the numbers. I did actually note 3 people at least unsubscribed because of the Rusty stream. I didn't realise that Rusty was so offensive to them, but hey ho, each to their own. Did also want to point out as well, I was meant to mention this the other week, the last full proper stream that I did, and I forgot because I'm a numpty. So a couple of people were asking about the panorama photo that I put in the background, particularly of my videos now, and I was going through some of the photos that I took from Antarctica, and there was a couple of people asking about buying the photos. Could they buy the photos at all? And I basically said I hadn't really considered it. So I have now added some new products into my Teespring store relating to those pictures. So a couple of the pictures that I took, I've now put as products that you can buy if you so desire. I should have. I'm trying to bring up the actual store so you can see. But here we go. Let me put this on. Where's my screen share? Here we go. So yeah, so of course I've got Rusty as the header. So these are the two photos that I've got. I did do the panorama. Unfortunately, Teespring, where I've got my store set up, they don't actually sell panorama photos. They only sell rectangle ones. So I've done the halfway point, basically, with the sun as one of them. And then you can also get the panorama as a mug. So that is from Mount Rossman right the way around the mug to halfway point as an option there. And then another photo that I've put up is this one, which was, that is, I think I took that about 1 o'clock in the morning. So that's the sun south of us in a southerly direction, you know, where it's not supposed to be on a flat earth, with the tents all laid out in the foreground. So that's available in wall prints and a mug as well. So just wanted to let everyone know that, yeah, those are now available. I think there should be a link, but I'll throw a link in the chat anyway, if you wish to go and look for them. I can't remember who it was who was asking. I just remember there was some people asking, so they're there if you want them. So what were the other notes? I made some notes of stuff I needed to remember to talk about. Oh yes, two more bits. So Flatzoids, the response, the video that I put out, the last video I put out, was in response to Flatzoids' claims about that our videos were in fact altered with Unreal Engine. And I noticed Flatzoid made reference to the fact that I've done a response video regarding it, but his response was to basically claim that I just said nuh and didn't actually provide any argument. Which is funny, because the entire point of the video was to point out to him that you can't just render shadows into a video using Unreal Engine or ray tracing, because the software has no clue how far away anything is from the camera, or what textures the objects are, or anything. It can't work it out unless it knows it in advance. So we would have had to have made everything in Unreal Engine. We'd literally had to go through and animate it ourselves in the video. Anyway, there was another point to that I only thought about afterwards, that I'd thought about, but I forgot to include in the video and only thought about again afterwards, which is that his argument was we'd made a fake rendering of the sky in Unreal Engine, then shot footage at halfway point, and then replaced the sky in our footage with the Unreal Engine render. Now, the big problem that I pointed out with that is that would mean that the original footage we shot would have gone dark at some point when the sun set, which then would mean that Unreal Engine would have had to have basically turned night into day, which it couldn't have done. But the other thing that I forgot about was that I'd made this video a while back, which is my camera on the bottom, my 360 camera on the bottom, and Will's 360 camera on the top, synced up and sped up to the same speed so that the sun tracks around at the same time. And this kind of gives you the game away that it's not an Unreal Engine render, because if it was, the sun would appear identical in both feeds, and yet the speckles of sun flares and glistening off the dots of the lens and just the distortion of the sun because of the camera lenses are different in the two videos. So just in case Flatzoid's thinking about doing any coverage of the Unreal Engine idea, this is just another point that people might want to point out to him, that if this sky was Unreal Engined, then that and that should be identical, and yet there's there's lens flares appearing on one that's not appearing on the other, and the sun shape distorts at different times. So yeah, just another nail in the coffin of that doesn't work Flatzoid. And then the other debunk that I wanted to cover up was in the last stream that I did a response to Effed Up World, who'd done a video about my whole argument of sunlight shining off the undersides of aeroplanes. And he'd basically put a point that he said the sun lighting up the underside of an aeroplane doesn't prove or disprove the shape of the Earth because it works on both flat and globe. It doesn't. But his point was that when the sun's at the horizon, the plane you see the plane above you, you see the sun lower than the plane, so therefore the sunlight is obviously shining off the underside of a plane. And the point that I'd thought about saying beforehand and then forgot to actually say at the time was that argument, if that argument were true, then the moment you saw the sun appearing under the plane, the underside of it should appear to start lighting up, but it doesn't. It only lights up when the sun's at the horizon. It would be like saying, when I look out of my window and I can see the sun appears lower than the window frame, so therefore the bottom of the window frame should be lit up, but it's not. So yeah, housekeeping over, and super chats are already rolling in. You fantastic people, so let's catch up on them. Tad for $2. Rusty always finds his level. Change my mind. I completely agree. He is like liquid sometimes. He just morphs into the shape of the chair. The turtle moves to £2. Rusty requires a container. I think the RSPCA might have a problem if I do that. Anonymous Freak for $2. Treats for Rusty. Thank you very much. I will make sure he gets those later. Tad for $5. Is there a link to the original photos if we want to make our own? I haven't put any. I haven't. At the moment, no. I'll see if I can sort something out for that. Doy for £10. Hey, yo, 3 things. Dave, Rusty stream was great. Thanks for whoever dropped all the gifted memberships. Have you seen Sam Eckelholm video flying in a U-2 spy plane at 70,000 feet and seeing the curve of Earth? Okay, so 3 things. Rusty stream, you're very welcome. Thanks to whoever dropped the gifted memberships. I believe that was Present99 that gifted the memberships. And the Sam Eccleston video, I've seen it did pop up in my YouTube feed before, but I didn't get around to watching it. But I imagine it'll be another awesome job of CGI, just like all the other videos of U-2 spy planes that flat earthers dismiss. Bill Tetley for $5. Hey Dave, glad I could catch another one of your streams. Are you going to do another Rusty stream in the future? He's a cutie pootie. Yes, I am. I mean, I could, like I said, I was doing it yesterday. Yesterday, because I typically work weekdays. I'm sat here working anyway, and he's always sat there, so I thought I'll just put the stream up. I mean, in reality, I could probably just stream him every single day. It could be like an antidote for Nathan Oakley's daily flat earth debate that's not a debate. And Rusty got more views than him as well, as several people have pointed out. Jack Fetter for $5. I think Rusty should expect / deserve some privacy. Perhaps a chair cam is sufficient, and his other activities can remain private or undisclosed. He has no morals when it comes to that. He's exposed himself on camera before. I mean, in fact, if you watch the outro video, he's not opposed to showing bits of him that you otherwise would not like to see. Icy Spin for $2. You look like a police officer with a bulletproof vest. Well, hopefully I don't get shot. Mars Science, $5. When will the debate about the moon landings take place? Is this referencing the videos with Jaren? Because if it is, I say it's not really meant to be much of a debate, more of a discussion. There's no date set in place for it yet. We've said we're going to do it. We haven't worked out any date for it yet. I'm on holiday next week, so it's not going to be at least until after that. But yeah, really the idea is more just a case of there's elements to the moon landings that Jaren thinks are that don't add up. So we're just going to do some live streams together, I think, where we basically go through them. And yeah, I'll try and dispel them all, basically. But yeah, currently no dates arranged as of yet. I think he's mentioned it a couple of times on his stream, and he's mentioning basically, I think he's trying to get people to bring to his audience to bring as many points as possible to it, so that we've basically got as much material to cover as we can. Randy W. Safel, $10 super chat, but no message. Thank you very much, Randy. I don't know if you intended to put a message or not, but let me know if there was something you were supposed to put there. Bill Tetley, $5. A live stream of an ashtray in a trash can will get more views than Nathan for Catsoid and Eric Dubay combined. That could be an experiment we could try, I suppose. Yeah. I do think, Rusty, I was slightly concerned that I'm sort of kind of glad, if anything, that there was people unsubscribing from the Rusty stream rather than subscribing. Only because it would be slightly awkward if people started subscribing because they saw the Rusty stream and thought, oh, this is like some ASMR thing, and then the next minute they get a notification that I've put a video up talking about flat Earth. So yeah, I didn't want to surprise anybody with that. Michaela, just watched the Everyday Astronaut vid on the moon landing. It was awesome. Yeah, I've still not watched the entirety of Tim's video yet, but the bits that I have seen are, yeah, absolutely fantastic. I mean, really, that in of itself should sort of just basically kind of explain to everybody that how and why the moon landings actually did happen, but it's never going to go quite that way. Yeah, nice. Slithery, £2. I love gravy and I love tea. Well, I've got my cup of tea. I'm not drinking a cup of gravy, that's for sure. Steve Walker, hi Dave. Have you done or will you do a Star Adventure tutorial video? I haven't done a video specifically about how to set the Star Adventurer up. That is in the background somewhere. I don't know if you can see it. Oh, it's off screen. Oh no, there it is. Behind Rusty. No, I've not done a video specifically about how to set the Star Adventurer up. I mean, there are plenty of videos about how to do that, but I am considering I'm going to do, I just need to find the time. I am going to do one that goes through setting it up, but in a non-optimal manner. Because I put the challenge out about using that on the equinox at the equator, and how does it work on a flat Earth? I mean, many people did point out it doesn't need to be the equinox and it does not need to be the equator. There's pretty much anywhere apart. Well, you set an EQ mount up anywhere other than the poles and run it for 24 hours, it will wind up pointing at the ground. I just felt that the equinox and the equator really drove the point home the most, because the camera would literally just go in a full circle up and over, no arcing to the path at all, and the camera would wind up pointing straight down at the ground. So that was the challenge that I laid out and asked people to explain how it works on a flat Earth. And lo and behold, so far nobody has done it. The demonstrable realists have gone running for it, or running from it, I should say. The closest I've had is Nathan Oakley did a video claiming that I've measured the Earth is flat, because that is the only bollocks he can parrot these days. And one of his viewers came into one of my videos comment sections to say that the EQ mount measures the Earth flat because you have to level it up to start with. So we basically had a back and forth discussion where I pointed out to him, you do not have to level the mount. It makes it easier to set it up, but you do not have to level it up. He tried claiming that it mentions in the user manual that you have to level it up. So I brought up the user manual and pointed out to him that it doesn't say you have to level it. In fact, you know what? I'm going to bring it up now, just because I can. Yeah, you don't have to level it. It can work without being leveled. Where did I find it? Manual. Instruction manual, Star Adventurer. Where are we? Screen share. Here we go. Instruction manual for the Star Adventurer. So yeah, I brought this thing up, which is just the book for it. And somewhere in amongst all of this, I mean, you know, he wants to quote the user manual, but let's ignore the bleeding big picture of the globe that explains the whole point of an EQ mount is to counteract Earth's rotation. So yeah, I then highlighted this bit, which in the steps for how to set it up, it says, now level your tripod using the built-in level. A leveled equatorial wedge is not a requirement for astrophotography, but it makes it easier. So basically, the only criteria for setting up an EQ mount is you need the center line of the wedge, the main head, you need that center line pointing to the celestial pole, or parallel to the celestial pole. That is the only requirement. Leveling the head, leveling the base first makes it easier to find the celestial pole, because you just then crank the elevation to match your latitude and you're pointing at the celestial pole. So I'm going to set it up completely wrong and have the wedge basically sitting like 20 degrees on a downward slope and still set the thing up properly in a video, basically just to prove that actually you don't have to level an EQ mount, so therefore it's not measuring the Earth flat, so therefore Oakley doesn't know what he's talking about. But yes, that's a very long-winded way of saying no, I've not done a video to explain how to set the EQ mount up properly. Coffee fan, $5 US. There was a restoration and a function check of an Apollo guidance computer from Curious Mark channel. The AGC kills the moon hoaxes. I don't think I've seen that one. I know I've seen our video about the guidance computer, which I think that had Linus Tech Tips in it, where they were showing how it was all hand wired. But yeah, I've not seen that one. I'll have to go and look into that one. Nezus for $5. Long-time follower, love your videos. Didn't know you were an expert with Unreal ray tracing like the Flurfers think. Not an expert. No, that would be Dunning-Kruger on its finest. No, I am familiar with Unreal Engine and I'm familiar with ray tracing, but far from an expert in them. I know the basics I know the fundamentals of how ray tracing works. Like I've got RTX 4080 Super, so it's got pretty good ray tracing capabilities, and I was dabbling around with playing ray traced games, and so I watched a lot of videos about, you know, comparing up ray tracing, and I can understand the concepts of how ray tracing works, that in order for a game to put ray tracing effects of the lighting effects in real time, it needs to know the scenery that it's projecting light into, which obviously from a video it's never going to actually know. DSE, £5. Hi Dave, hope you're doing well. I was hoping to see the blood moon, but I started work at 4 a.m. I wanted to get your opinion on bridge cameras as a whole. Well, thank you, DSE. Yes, I was hoping to see the blood moon, but unfortunately, UK and weather and looking at objects in the sky don't really mix too well. So the blood moon was 6:30, peaked at 6:30 UK time. I was up to go to a gym session at that time, and it was overcast in every day. In fact, no, it wasn't overcast. It was heavily overcast in the direction of the moon. It was pretty nice in the direction of the sun. There was a very nice sunrise that I could see, but yeah, the moon was completely obscured, which was a shame. Opinion on bridge cameras as a whole. They are, well, they have their place in the market. They are fundamentally a all-rounder of being able to, like, I've got I should probably wear gloves while I'm holding this, otherwise I might become a flat earther. But this is the P1000, which I bought specifically to make a video comparing it up to a higher end mirrorless camera to show, because flat earthers seem to think that this thing is the be all and end all of a camera, and it's really not. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a pretty decent camera for, you know, if you just wanted an all-in-one camera that can shoot everything from a landscape to something several miles off in the distance, it can do it, but it's not particularly good for night sky shooting. It can't do long exposures, which makes it not really good for astrophotography. It struggles tracking fast-moving objects, so if you're shooting anything that's moving fast, like wildlife, it struggles. Yeah, so they're kind of if you want something that can cover shooting everything from wide angle to far away, not particularly quick-moving, image quality is not the absolute sort of most important aspect to you, and budget's another option, another constraint, then that's kind of the target market for bridge cameras. If you're looking at doing something more specialized, shall we say, something more focused on one particular area of photography, like if you wanted something for doing night sky shooting, wouldn't recommend one of those. Wouldn't recommend a bridge camera. So yeah, it kind of really depends on what you're after. If you're just after a general purpose, all-rounder camera, bridge camera's a pretty good option, or an okay option, but probably another. Let me pull this down. So, or then you've got something like this, which is more my daily kind of driver, which is a mirrorless that you can change the lenses to do whatever you want. So, this kind of lens has nowhere near the reach of one of these, but if you do a straight comparison of sort of image quality, this thing wins hands down. If you were doing night sky stuff, this thing wins hands down. If I wanted to get more sort of professional looking results with the portrait, I'd take the lens off and I'd replace it with like one like that. That's pretty good for sort of sports or portrait stuff. So yeah, it's kind of one of those. Bridge cameras are a good way of getting into doing photography and video, but I've just disconnected all my cables now. I'm going to break this. Yeah, come on. Sorry, Rust, I've broke your B cam. There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, I know I've probably confused I've probably confused you more than I've helped you there, DSE. I do apologise. Right, IC Spin 199. I think people would be into your Jeren body cam combo. The Jeren body cam combo. Oh yeah, you mean the ones on Jeren's body cam video? Yeah, I mean he and I had a couple of discussions. I think I think there was probably a few that didn't even appear on his body cam because he didn't have that thing running the whole time. It wasn't like Toon with his GoPro that was running 24/7. Oh, I do apologise, everyone. I'm fighting something off here, so I'm drinking some Lemsip. Yeah, Jeren's the conversations we had were really constructive. It was really nice to just sort of have a genuine engagement where he would bring up his points and we'd just go back and forth. Like he brought up he loves bringing up the Stephen Hawking documentary, the PBS, is it PBS one? And he brought it up and I was like, yeah, said I'll hold my hands up that I'd used that clip in the past of the helicopter sinking below the horizon as a it's kind of helicopter disappears below the horizon, there you go. And then somebody pointed out that the foreground repeats. And I went and checked it and I was like, holy shit, it does actually repeat. But he was like, well, why would they do that? I said, because it's like, it's a science thing. It's Stephen Hawking. Why would you do that? I was like, it's Stephen Hawking did not edit the video up. It's a production company that's done it. And for whatever reason, they've decided that they've not made it. The production company's not been making it from a scientific aspect. They've been making it from a sort of, what's the word? Artistic, creative side of things. So it could have just been that something happened in the foreground of one of the shots that they thought was distracting, and so they duplicated it to make it more appealing, not considering that people would, sort of be going over pixel peep in the footage. So I said, I think it points more towards just, somebody editing it under artistic license than a major conspiracy. But yeah, it wasn't so. But we had that back and forth conversation, and I think he was sort of somewhat surprised that I was actually just like, yeah, I'm not going to argue with you about that one. But yeah, if you've not seen the body cam videos from Jeren, he's just got like a 5.5 hour video of all his GoPro footage. I'd go and watch it. It's good fun. I liked it because I all the I'd shot a load of footage in Antarctica, but most of the footage that I shot was just odd 30-second clips here and there, or just more capturing scenic moments, shall we say, where, like, I could probably bring up a few from, I've gone through the Antarctica stuff a bit already, but I don't think I went through the stuff from Punta Arenas. Just to give you an idea of the kind of things that I was shooting that's different from Jaren's. So here we go. So yeah, I've just like, I mean, most of those are the flight over. I'm gonna play a video here, and hopefully I don't deafen everybody. I can't even hear any sound. Was there any sound coming through that? I wasn't hearing anything. Or is it just my headphones not working? Anyway, there was audio. Oh, good. So yeah, this was just like a random clip of somebody that one of the marathon runners that we were interviewing, who wanted to talk about. Oh, there we go. I can hear something.
But that's not because of some weird.
So this is like just a 15-second clip.
It's weather, and it's
so that's Toon with his GoPro. He's literally recording the entire conversation. I just recorded sort of more documenting the documenting, you know, kind of Inception style. And then just took like I'd had to lay out all my gear for ALE to come round and have a look over it. So I just, so, you know, here's a little snippet clip of that. You know, well, we're off for a little walk around. So I just took all of this as more B-roll footage to overlay potentially into videos. Although, to be honest, I've not even done much with the Punta Arenas stuff. And then I think that one was garbage because it was shaky as all hell. Oh yeah, this was Toon deciding to vlog himself in front of the great big globe on the statue. And then, yeah, so this was Will and Critical Think were doing the measuring the lines of longitude. So they were basically just walking right the way along that path, over the car park there, down that path, because that's a perfectly east-west road. So I was just grabbing all these random little bits of footage. Literally like 10-20 second clips here and there, whereas Jaren just had a body cam running the whole time. So it was nice for me, even though I'd experienced it all, it was nice for me to just watch back through his footage, because it was like reliving it, whereas my clips are just sort of gentle reminders, whereas his was actually like being back there again. Similar with watching Mark Herman's 360 video. He had his Insta 360 recording when we arrived at the camp, and he's just got a video. He was literally just walking around with the GoPro, with the 360 up on a stick. Just view it, like you can just go look everywhere around the camp. The entire introduction to the camp that we had. And I sat and rewatched the whole thing, even though I was there and I knew everything that was going on. I was there in the footage, and I still rewatched it back just because it was nice to relive it. Oh my God, so many super chats. Jack Fetter, $5. Call it moon physics, optical anomalies discussion, no debunk, hoax or fake mentioned. Make it purely a productive discussion, learning event. I'm assuming that is in reference to the Jaren discussion, I think. Which, if that is the case, okay, yeah, it's kind of, yeah, it's not meant to be a kind of, you know, there's bits to it that to him don't add up. But I think Jaren, to be fair, is now he's now come to the realization that it is possible to be very wrong about something and not actually realize. So I think he's going in with a much more open mind than if we tried doing this 6 months ago, pre-TFE. I think it would be very much more like brick walls with it. Whereas I think post-TFE, he's much more open-minded to things now. So I think he is... I mean, to be fair, I'd say much more open-minded. He was seemed pretty open-minded when I was talking to him in Punta Arenas. So, but yeah, I think should be nice and productive, all being well. Marcus Leach, $5 Canadian. Our 12.8 meter radio telescope was very carefully leveled during construction in 1971, but if it wasn't, we could have just adjusted our pointing software. Yep, it's pretty much same principle. Although there is also the element that if you're dealing with a very big telescope, that leveling it probably will sort of balance it better, perhaps. I don't know. JSS Tiger, $5. Dave McKeegan, the destroyer of worlds, flat worlds. Yes, I don't want to be destroying the globe. There was a very real possibility that if I'd gone to Antarctica and the sun had set, I'd have been the destroyer of the globe, and I don't want that on my conscience. Bill Tetley, $5. Why hasn't Bill Tetley super chatted yet? Oh no, sorry, I'm completely. Cygnasep for $5. Why hasn't Bill Tetley super chatted yet, or did I miss it? And then Bill Tetley for $5. This would be my third super chat. Hiya, Cygnus. How's your weekend going? I don't know, Cygnus. I've not seen Bill Tetley super chat at all. Yeah. Judy Bassett for €10. Dave, have you done any wildlife photography? I have. Bits, I suppose. Yeah, I could probably try and find some examples. I've not done... probably best way to describe it. So most of the animal photography that I've done was actually at zoos, not like safaris. I've never had the chance to go and do like an African safari. It's probably still on the to-do list if I ever get the chance. Where did I put it? Somewhere, once upon a time, I had a folder with a load of zoo photos, and I'll be damned if I can find it now. There it is. So, just because you ask, I'll bring up some. I could probably bring up some. What I used to like going to the zoo, because I lived fairly close. I used to live fairly close to Chester Zoo, which was quite a big zoo here in the UK, and it used to be nice for me to just have a membership and I could just go whenever I wanted. I didn't have it. If you go to a zoo, like if you go for just a 1 day out, you're kind of under the pressure of getting around and seeing as much as possible. Whereas for doing photography, it's not ideal. You kind of want to just sort of more take your time and be in a place. So I liked having a membership because I would literally just go on a day for a few hours, sit there, pick a spot and sit there and wait and see what happened. And if nothing happened, I didn't feel like I'd lost anything because I hadn't just paid like £20 or whatever to get in. The other thing I liked with it was to try and make it a challenge for myself of, could I get photos that made it look not like a zoo? For example, this was taken at a zoo. This was taken in Chester Zoo. When the hell was it? 2014, I think it was. So, just because I'm reminiscing now, this was actually a very fortunate photo for me to get. This was in their old tiger enclosure, and where that tiger is it used to be a big, it was a big deep pond that the tigers could go and swim in. And on this one particular day that I captured this photo, they drained the pond. So this reflection is only coming up as clear as it is because it's literally a few centimeters of water left in the bottom. Like, this is the sloped side that normally it was filled right the way up. Had it been filled, the tiger wouldn't have been here. She would have been a few feet further up the bank, and you would have seen straight across to the other side of the enclosure where there was like a big building and a fence and everything. It would have been very obvious that it was a zoo and it was in an enclosure. But because the pond was drained, the tiger had come down the slope. So one, it changed the background so that you can't see it's a zoo, and she's also got that clear reflection because of the much shallower water. And you can't see the fence that I'm standing next to because I've got such a shallow depth of field that the fence is really blurred out. What nobody knew at the time is the reason that the pond had been drained is because she is actually pregnant at this point. A few weeks later, she had 3 cubs, I think it was. So they drained the pond, I think, in preparation for them coming along. But yeah, that's one of my favorite photos that I took. I've just got a folder of them. I've not even looked through these for a couple of years. But there's one of the cubs after it was a couple of years older. They used to just come out every now and again and play with these bags and stuff. And it was bits like this that was really nice from a photography aspect. Because again, the background of it, you're trying to find an angle. You're trying to find a position and an angle around the enclosure where the background isn't a zoo. And it looks like it could potentially be in the wild. Red panda deciding to wave at me. Always like this one. Got this one in one of the first few years, and for some reason, every time I see it, it just reminds me of the PG Tips adverts. Was it PG Tips or Tetley's? This is the one with the monkeys. Somebody will probably point out in the chat, but I'm sure it was PG Tips. So yes, animal photography. I used to. There's another one. There's Goshi, I think that was. One of the jaguars at the zoo. They had 2. They had a black one, that's Goshi, and they had a spotted one called Napo. And these were swines to try and get because... oh, sorry, Clive. Yes, chimps, not monkeys. I knew that, really. Yeah, the jaguars were really kind of elusive, and they wouldn't come out very often, so they would be ones that you would have to hang around for ages to try and get a photo of them. So yeah, for me, zoos were actually a really good way of practicing photography, because I think trying to do it in a safari or whatever, if you've got no kind of experience with any of it, could probably be a nightmare. Whereas with a zoo, it gives you a bit more chance to be, to just kind of practice. These were 2 of the cubs. They used to fight quite a lot, which was always fun. And then, is that 2 or 1? Eating something, I don't know. Yeah, I got loads of photos like this. I've got a whole folder of them. I could probably spend an entire bleeding stream just going over them all. For some reason, I felt it was artistic to take the back end of 2 zebras for some reason or another. I don't know. There was something in my mind at the time thought that the arses of two zebras would make an interesting photo. There was another one I wanted to. I actually won a competition from the zoo at one point, and I can't find the picture that I won with. It was one of the meerkats. Again, I used to try and play around and just do things slightly differently and kind of go against the grain with stuff, and I actually wound up winning. They ran a photography competition, and I won. I'll have to find it. They ran a competition for action photos of the animals, and I got a photo of the two of their meerkats fighting with each other, which they awarded oh, I like that one as well. They opened up a crocodile enclosure, so you can get right up to the glass with the crocodiles, and obviously, so this is taken right at the water level. So you've obviously seeing the mouth under the water with the eyes just above it, and all of the refraction that's taking place as well. Yeah, so the reason that this photo that I can't find, one, is because it was meerkats fighting, and the zoo commented that everyone assumes that meerkats are these kind of really cute, cuddly little things, and they're not. They're actually really aggressive and protective at times. So these two having a squabble was an unusual photo for them to see. Plus, rather than taking the photo from a distance and zoomed in, it actually happened right near the glass, and I had a really wide view, so it was quite kind of. I was very low down and looking sort of more up at the meerkats. And so yeah, they awarded it. I can't find it. I did, however, find this, which is a dragonfly in mid-flight that I can't to this day believe I actually managed to get. Which I think from memory. Oh, in fact, I got 3 of them, but I can't. I've got a sneaking suspicion I was actually manually focusing that one as well. I don't think I ought to. I don't think the camera focused that. I think I was trying to do it. Admittedly, I didn't save the 1001 shots where I'd completely ballsed up the focus and it was just more looking at trees. Yeah. I need to have a go. I forgot how many of the photos I've got from the zoo. And I haven't been for years. In fact, yeah, I think 2020 was the last time I went. Just after lockdown had lifted. I haven't been back since. I haven't had the bloody time. So, yes, Judy, yes. In short answer, animal photography, yes. Wildlifey stuff, though, actually kind of out in the actual wild, not so much. Did do odd bits and pieces years ago, but I can't find any. Tad gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much, Tad. So 5 of you lucky ducks have now become fans of not me. Him. Whether you like it or not. Is the overhead working? There we go. There we are. Double doses of Rusty. Are you comfortable there? I'll take that as a yes. Grumpy Old Mechanic, $5 US. I hope your discussion of Apollo with Jaren includes some mention of the vast body of scientific literature on the subject. I'm sure I will probably mention it, but how much of it I'm going to bring up, I don't know. I suppose it depends on what points he brings to the table. The only bits that I'm trying to think what I've heard him talk about. I know he's brought up aspects about parallax within the footage, but that's more of a... Oi, Simon, Dan is in the house. Hello, Dan. How are you? I'm going to make Dan a moderator. Because he's awesome. Why not? Have a spanner, Dan. Yes, so I'm hoping... potentially I'll bring up some of the scientific literature. I need to actually have a look through it myself and make sure... catch up on it all, because I've not looked through a lot of it for a while. But yeah, I think a lot of it will also be photography focused, because that's sort of my wheelhouse. And really, if all else fails, I think the scientific side of things obviously goes over the head of most people. Whereas I can lay out in pretty layman terms with demonstrations how the lighting and the shadows you cannot replicate here on Earth. Which is something that physically people can go and do hands on themselves and work out that, yeah, studio lighting doesn't look like that, doesn't work like that, and if the photos can't be recreated in a studio, then they were never made in a studio in the first place, ergo were never taken on Earth in the first place. Gary I.O., do you ever do film photography, Dave? No, not particularly. I've not. I was always more digital. My dad used to do photography, amateur photography, back when it was film, and I vaguely remember dabbling with his camera, or cameras, I should say. And technically my first ever camera was a film camera. I think I actually had a couple of these. So they had the little Insta cartridge things that went in there. So yeah, I used to do film photography, technically, but nothing sort of the professional side with kind of 35mm film or anything. Yeah, the first proper cameras that I got were all digital and yeah, often considered film, but I don't know. It's kind of found that last time I checked as well, it seemed to have sort of boomed back up, and I thought everything was getting expensive with it again. But I don't know. Although I am contemplating buying some film and a vacuum chamber to show what lying arseholes the Apollo detectives can be. Randy W. Safel for $5 US. Peer review is when you actually replicate previous observations and experiments. Have you challenged your critics to go to Antarctica and replicate TFE? Yeah. I pointed out to Flatzoid when we were having our discussion that he could go and look for himself rather than trying to pull every excuse out of his arse possible that as to how or why he thinks it might be faked, that they could just go. That it's quite hilarious that they say they were never going to trust our side of the argument, but the whole point of Will taking flat earthers along was that, they were meant to be there to verify everything, and now the flat earth community turn around and go, oh, we never trusted them anyway. It's like, well, if you didn't trust the people who were going from your side of the argument, then why did none of you bother to try and come along as well? Nominate someone who you do trust and crowdfund for them to come along with us and see for themselves. But, yeah, none. And since getting back, now that we've shown and they've accepted that, you can get to Antarctica. Well, we were never saying you can't go to Antarctica, just that you can't freely and independently explore it is the position they've shifted to now. So, okay, well, now you can go to Antarctica and that you can go to Union Glacier. Off you pop. They won't. I had someone argue with me before, funnily enough, about it. They were commenting about on my time-lapse video, the first one I put up. because they said someone had ran screenshots of it through a image fake website thing, and it came back and said there's a chance it might be fake. I said, funnily enough, I've just put several screenshots of it through myself and came back and said they weren't. But I've shown the original 360 footage on one of my streams in Insta Studio right here on the screen. And then I pointed out to him that, because he was saying that you can have ray tracing and Unreal Engine and the software to create or fake the lighting in the footage. And I said, but that doesn't work with live streams because you'd have to pre-render it all beforehand. It doesn't work on live streams. And he said, yeah, but I'm not talking about live streams. I'm talking about this time lapse. I said, but you can see the live streams happen in the time lapse. So they're all part of the same package. You can't just cherry pick out the bits that you want to address because you can't explain other bits. So we tried arguing that actually, no, he's only talking about the time lapse, and all he has to do is discredit the time lapse. I said, well, the easiest way to the most effective way to discredit the time lapse would be go to Antarctica yourself and, show the sun set in December. But we both know you won't do that. So, yeah, I'm not expecting to see any flat earthers running to Antarctica anytime soon, but I have suggested it to them. Bill Tetley, $2. Shout out to Simon Dan in the chat. Yes, Simon Dan, the legend. How many people? Tad, $2. Spend an entire bleeding stream showing Zoo. Is that a request? I could potentially do it. I've got to go through and come look if that's a request or a criticism. But yes, it's a possibility, I suppose. Jay Donacci, $10. Dave, can you try this for me on the intro? Keep the dog minute thing and then use the footage with you playing with your dog, because that's more of an intro because it's exciting, and an exit elevator music with Russ. Let me go. Dave, can you try this for me on the intro? Keep the dog minute thing and then use the footage with you playing with your dog, because that's more of an intro because it's exciting, and exit elevator music with Rusty. Okay, you want me to expand the intro to add more footage? I'll have to look into it. I'll be honest, it's all been... I'm still trying to smooth out how to do the streams and stuff. I'm still, kind of tweaking things as I go and working out what works and what doesn't. And the intro, I just thought, I didn't just want to press go live and here I am. And obviously, if I'm going to do an intro or anything, if it doesn't involve him, people get angry. I mean, granted, I get quite a lot of people who get angry because I include him. But generally, on balance, I get more people annoyed if he's not there than if he is. So I thought, I promise you, that camera's not frozen. He is still like that. That is pretty typical for him. What was I saying? Yes, so I just thought I know most channels do like an intro, something to run for a minute or so while it gives people time to realize that you're live and jump in. So I thought I'll do something for Rusty, but I didn't really have the time because it was all kind of quite last minute. When I was making the first live stream, I just threw in. I thought I'll just do a quick minute-long intro with Rusty. I didn't have any music or any songs or anything to go particularly OTT with it. So I just thought I'll do a minute-long countdown timer and I'll have Rusty. I did actually need to do a little bit of direction with him. I know they say you should never work with kids or animals, but I thought I'll actually try and do it. Um, because I know how he reacts to me and when I do things. So I thought it'd be quite good if I could have a, a sort of relaxed Rusty to start with. And then as the countdown timer got closer to 0, he got gradually more and more excited and kind of, oh, the stream's about to start. So I wound up sitting behind the camera with it recording, ignoring him until he went back to sort of rested and settled back down. Then I left him lying there for a minute or two. And then I just started sort of behind the camera, just started muttering and sort of peeking over and looking at him because I knew he was watching me. So that obviously sort of got the tail going a little bit and where's this going? And then I sort of started clicking and that's where he was getting up and stuff. So yeah, I had to direct him to do that. So trying to do anything longer than that might be quite tricky. And then the outro was actually an after one from that. So I think the first streams had never had an outro, and then somebody emailed me. I can't remember the name. Really need to double check who it was. Sorry, I'm just caught up catching up messages. What was I saying? Rusty's supposed to remind me what I'm talking about, and he's useless. Yes, the outro. So somebody just emailed me and said, I've made this song about Rusty, and I played it, and I thought, that's brilliant. I'm going to have to make a video about that. And I had all that footage is stuff from I've had sort of gathered up for a couple of years. I just save it all. Not so much now, because he kind of knows the process of what I do when I'm streaming. He knows, when I come into the room, he's bolting in. He's sat on that chair before I'm wherever I'm going. So yeah. So he's already on that chair before I'm sat down. Does anyone know how old Rusty is? He's 11, I believe. I think he turned 11 in February, if memory serves me right. Yeah, so he's just in that chair all ready to go. So once I'm in and I'm sat down and I'm talking, he just kind of zones out. Yeah, he's 11 days old. Yeah, Borum too. Borum. He's 11 days. I've had him for a couple of years, but he's 11 days old. At least he acts like it sometimes. So yeah, he now. I've been doing these long enough that he knows the rhythm of things. So once I start talking to the empty room, he just zones out. When I then don't give away all your secrets, you're spoiling the magic. I'm not really giving away all the secrets. I'm making out all of this stuff now like he's not a CGI dog and that's not a green screen. What was I saying? Ugh, I'm too tired for this. Yeah, so he kind of knows the process now, whereas he used to not. So when I first started filming, when I first started doing YouTube, I wasn't... Rusty's technically... might upset some people. Technically, not my dog. He's my fiance's dog. And he kind of just decided that now I'm his owner. So when I first started doing YouTube, that was before we'd met. So he was never in the videos. And then the more I started spending time at my missus's place, I'd got to a point where I just started filming at hers rather than driving back and forth to film the videos. So he then just decided he would... So when I first started doing the videos, I don't think he was particularly bothered. Yeah, Human Thomas, he's not yours, unsubscribing. He wasn't mine. Well, I suppose arguably I'm his, if you want to put it that way. Yeah, the first couple of videos, he kind of just would stay out the way and just not really sure what to make of it. And then slowly he'd just sort of jump up on the couch. He might sit at a distance from me and then just come and go as he pleased, basically. And I just left him to it. I never thought anything of it until people started commenting, like, why is the dog not in there? Or, you know, what? But where's the dog? I only come for the dog and stuff. So it kind of started then becoming this running joke, and I try and incorporate him a little bit more and sort of prompt him to come onto the camera or onto the seat and stuff. And he'd play around quite a bit, and I saved quite a lot of random clips of just him doing these silly little things, and I thought it'd be good to just have on hand and maybe make a montage of them at some point. In fact, I'll show you now a video since I'll get onto eclipses at some point, I am sure, but while I'm on, I made this video and I've never actually showed anybody it. I used to play hide and seek with him. So, obviously, I used to, like, pretend to throw something down the stairs or whatever. I'd throw his toy down the stairs or whatever, and then when he chased after it to go, I'd go and hide somewhere, and then he'd obviously be running around trying to find me. Or I'd just call him while I'm hiding somewhere. Don't do it so much now because he's a bit older now. Plus, he knows all the spots that that are hiding. But I actually did it once where I hid from him and I set the cameras up because he just had this funny thing of he would just run the same paths. Even though he's been and checked this place 3, 4, 5 times over, he still keeps going back to the same place. So I filmed him doing it once and I made it into a video. And like I say, I've never played this, never shown this before, but here you go as a treat. Yes, a shit sniffer dog. He's not particularly great at finding things. Quite often when we go for a walk, like chase a stick or something or a ball or whatever, if you throw something most of the time he will start running before you've actually thrown it. And if you throw something far enough that it lands more than 8-10 feet in front of him, he loses sight of it. He just starts running in circles at that point. Wherever he is at the point, even though it landed way off in the distance, he doesn't work out, I need to carry on going closer to where it was and then go scouring. He just sort of throw, go, where am I? Yeah. Not the greatest sniffer dog, but one hell of a cuddly companion. Icy Spin, careful if you show more of these, you'll break the YouTube algorithm. Yes, well, everyone's saying I should basically make this just the Rusty channel anyway, and I'll just be his technician, but that so that is a possibility. JL Domino, how many cameras do you have? Quite a few. So I've got the main camera. Typically, the main camera now that I use in terms of if I'm going out and I'm just taking photos or whatever is a Sony a7 IV, which is currently what is filming him. That was an upgrade from my a7 III, which is this one. And then I'm filming on a Sony a6400. So yeah, I used to have the a7 III as my main runaround camera. This was a backup camera that I take because I'd go and photograph weddings. So I would just take this along with me as a backup in case something went wrong, which it never did. But now that I've got the a7 IV, the 3's become the backup, and this is now basically just a webcam. And then, yeah, I have the P1000, which, like I said, I only actually bought to make a video about. I've just not actually got round to making the video yet. And then, oh yeah, and then I've got the Insta360, which is off. And then I've got the Insta360, which I obviously bought for TFE. Which I did have plans to incorporate into some other stuff, video, flat earth videos and the likes. But I've, yeah, again, not got round to that one either. I need to try and find somewhere where I can get a big Perspex dome. Yeah. Where was I up to? The Human Napkin has become a fan of Rusty as well. Yes, you. Yes, people are... You want to come up? Come on, then. Come on. There you go. Dog my arse, you're a baby. This is just the stream now, isn't it? It's just going to be me holding on to you. Slithery, £5. My first proper camera was an EOS 50E. The eye tracking blew my mind. I can't even remember which one the EOS 50 was. Isn't that an old... Was that one of the films? Sorry, did I put you down? I'm covered in dog hairs. You getting back on your chair? There we go. He's back. Yeah, I can't even remember which one the EOS 50 is. I remember the M50. And an EOS 50E. Help if I could spell. Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah. I've never had one with the eye tracking before. I know the newer Canons have got eye tracking again, but... Yeah, it'd blow my mind. It would confuse my head. Having to look where I'm meant to be looking. I quite often, my eye dances all over the frame sometimes. Just so trying to look at the background, I'd wind up focusing on the wrong thing. Tad, $2. Zoo photos aren't a request, they're an order. Oh, right, okay. Well, my apologies, Tad. In that case, I will look into doing a zoo photography reminiscent stream at some point. Nezus, $5 US. I think because they sent you money to do a zoo pick stream, it'd be prostitution. I think it was more they sent me money as a suggestion to do. Actually, no, he's made it request now. Yeah, okay, and I'm technically, it might be prostituting myself out for photos. Fuzz the Cat, $10 Australian. Ball evidence just before sunrise. Look west sky up from horizon. Dark blue, red, light blue, dark blue because secondary scattering and Earth's shadow. Earth is curved. Why is no one else shown this? I think there has been before. I'm sure some people have covered that. Are you off again? What? You want back up again? Okay. If you're coming up, come up. Yes? No? Maybe? You're not as agile as you used to be, are you? No. All right. Yeah, Fuzz the Cat. I think people have covered stuff like that. I'm sure I've seen people covering stuff like that before. Obviously, it just gets dismissed as, no, that works on Flat Earth too because magic. But I'm pretty sure people have covered that before as well. Bill Tetley, $5. Poor puppers. Here's to some treats to help with the trauma of thinking he's lost his humans. He never lost his humans. I think the worst one, I think the most confused I ever got for him was that video was in the old house we used to be in, and on the top of the stairs where the landing was, there was the hatch up into the attic, and it had a pop down ladder for it. And I climbed up in there once and I pulled the ladder up and then shouted him. So he came upstairs looking for me. I was hanging my head out of the attic hatch. So if he'd looked up, he'd have seen me. But he was just, constantly running around, sort of eyes locked forward, looking for me. Don't worry. Only gave it a couple of minutes before I was constantly shouting his name until he realised where I was. You're not too traumatised, were you? No. No, he's not. Hey, softy. Deke Nomad, $20 No diss to Rusty fans. I watch your content because of you. Rusty is all cute. Ow. Not everyone watches because of you. Some people do like to watch because of me, dog. Don't get jealous. Rusty is all cute, but I have 3 awesome dogs of my own to love on. You, Dave, have taught me a lot of useful things about photography, flat earth debunk, free experiment. No, FE debunk, free experiment. Yes, well, don't be jealous. No, that's perfectly fine, Deke. Rusty's not everybody's cup of tea, even though... Where am I up to? Right, TMK86, $20. Dave, did you ever have a moment of doubt when it came to flat Earth or the moon landings? I'm on the side of sanity, but I did question the moon landings in the past and even indulge the possibility of FE for about 3 hours. Hello. Right, I'm going to put you down now. Yes, I'm going to have to. He's not even going back to his chair yet. Did I ever have a moment of doubt? So, in terms of flat Earth, no. Mainly because I'm not just going to say... I'd never had a reason to doubt them myself. So... my first experience with terms of flat Earth or the moon landing hoax was people suggesting it to me. And I'm not just going to hear a suggestion from somebody of something so extreme and then just go, oh, yeah, well, you say it, so therefore I'm going to agree with it. Immediately I'm going to start questioning their interpretations of things. So in terms of flat Earth, from the very outset, there was nothing that anything flat Earth put forward that made me think, oh yeah, oh well, that might mean the Earth's flat. My head does constantly go to, what if the Earth is flat? But that's where I use that to then come up with, well, if the Earth is flat, this would happen or that would happen, and that's not what we see because they don't work. So yeah, I do quite often consider what if, but never from a context of I'm actually thinking that that might be the case. It's more of a I'm using it to put myself in the mindset of if that were true, how would reality actually be? In terms of the moon landings, again, I when I first started hearing about the idea of the moon landings being fake, I did consider it. I'll try and carefully word this. So, at no point have I thought the moon landings were a hoax, but I did look at the arguments that were put forward for it. I remember watching, actually, funnily enough, there was, when I was younger, my parents used to take me to, there was friends of the family that we used to go and visit, and one of them, a woman, was convinced the moon landings were fake. And I used to sort of discuss it with her sometimes and stuff, but she never actually had. She had the idea that the moon landings were fake, but she didn't really have any of the arguments other than just, oh, come on, going to the moon seems quite, it's extreme, it's not, it's way too far away, you're never making it. She didn't really have any of the understanding of the arguments that conspiracy theorists actually put forward. And then when we were around at theirs one night, by sheer coincidence, there was a documentary that was shown, can't remember the name of it, but it was one that was going through and debunking conspiracies about the moon landing. So I remember they were looking at the shadows from the whole argument of perspective was one that I remember, and if I explain it, people might be able to tell me what it was because I can't remember what the documentary was. But there was talk about the gloves not being able to actually pick things up in a vacuum because the gloves would there'd be too much a pressure differential. You wouldn't be able to bend the gloves or anything properly. And they made this mock-up vacuum chamber with a glove inside where they actually pumped the air out and could use the glove and pick things up to show that it could work or not. Yeah, Q Chrono D saying Mythbusters. I don't know. I mean, it was quite a few years ago. It might have been before the Mythbusters. I know the Mythbusters have done some stuff on the moon landings, but I can't remember whether that was it or the case. I don't remember it being the guys from the Mythbusters, but maybe it is just my memory failing me. But yes, to answer your question, TMK, never really doubted it. Not for more than a second, because I just go through that process of, oh, well, what if it was? And then, well, hang on, that doesn't work, and that doesn't work, and that doesn't work. So for the moon landings, it's always a case of the Soviets. There's this circular argument of, why would you fake the moon landings? The whole point of going to the moon the whole point of the moon race was to beat the Soviets. So of all of the people in the world who were going to call you out for faking it, the Soviets would be the ones who would do it, and they've done nothing. So, Bill Tetley, $5. I trained my mini Aussie Shepherd to give me puppy kisses at the end of on the end of my nose in order to get scritches and scratches. I called it the attention paying tax. I probably couldn't get Rusty to do that. I could barely get him to do pause. I can barely get him to do a wake, to be fair. Doy first, Doy, £5. Hey, yo, sorry if you've answered, but is the Jaren Moon stream booked in? So I did mention it before, Doy. Nothing as of yet. So it's something that we've both said we want to do. Jaren's mentioned about it and seems really eager to do it. So it is something that is going to get done. It's just we haven't managed to work out a date as of yet. I think it's not going to be for at least a couple of weeks. So I'm going away on holiday next week. So I'll be away for all of next week anyway. And there's nothing penciled in as of yet for anything after that. So it's going to be at least a few weeks. I suspect Jaren might be just sort of trying to get over the sort of flat earth fallout first, and then maybe once things have settled down from that, then he'll change focus. But he has, when he's mentioned it on his streams, he's also brought up and said that asked people to bring up whatever arguments, like kind of make suggestions of points that he can bring up to me as well. So I think he's maybe just compiling some material as well. Eugene, Dave, did you get to watch the lunar eclipse the other day? Unfortunately not, Eugene, no. I know I did mention before I was awake to see it. I had a gym session booked in, so I was on the way to the gym. Unfortunately, I'm in the UK and the clouds had other ideas. So, yeah, I unfortunately missed it, but not for being asleep. Jay Donacci, $5. The video you just showed was awesome and hilarious. You did a great job with the minute thing. Keep that and go to your footage with you and Rusty. Oh, okay. So I think I get you mean. You mean keep the minute-long intro and then do the hide and seek, maybe? Or something? I don't know. I might try and expand on it. But I'll have to see. In fact, I haven't seen. Is Emma knocking around in the chat at all? Or is she missing this stream? I haven't seen her. I don't think she might not be in, but anyway, Emma is a regular I see in my chat, and I think she's often in the Drunk Debunks stream as well. Anyway, I got a message before off Icy Spin because Emma had wrote another song for Rusty. And then wrote some lyrics for a song for Rusty, and then Icy Spin put some music to them. And I'm going to play it for you now. I don't think she's in the chat, but hopefully she'll see it later on. But I'm just going to play it for you to enjoy.
Scrolling feeds, you preach so high, but Rusty's snore makes grown men cry. Ditch the charts, the laser beams, this pup's the star of all your streams. No matter what you try to say, a drooling dog will steal the day. Leaky apps, vapes, and rotting toes. Who knows? A wagon tail is how fame flows. You drop your vids, you drop your rants. Rusty blinks, there go your chance. You're breaking myths, debunking pros. That dog just sneezed, there go your shows. No matter what you try to say, a snoring dog outranks your play. Salad bowls, blurry pics, and rotting toes. Furry balls control the shows. Flurfs will scream and flirts will fight. Rusty just stretches, steals the night. The chat ain't yours, it's all his game. Bow down to Rusty, embrace the shame. No matter what you try to say, a snoozing dog gets all the pay. Balls in mouth, yoga, and rotting toes. Who knows? A shiny nose is how fame grows. And if you ask who wrote this gem, Rusty just wags, wasn't it Emma?
There. I did swear I didn't mute myself. Bleeding hell. I'm sure I didn't mute myself. Did you mute me while I was off? Anyway. So, yes, that was a song by Emma, who is a regular in the chat, although I don't think she's actually in today. But yeah, she wrote the music. She wrote the lyrics, and Icy Spin put it to some music, and I think Emma wanted me to have it as a gift. So I've just decided to, I thought I'd just share it with everybody. Yeah, where are we? Gary Io, £5. An amateur radio friend of mine tracked Apollo 11 all the way to the moon and back and recorded the telemetry reel to reel. Yeah, I've seen, I know there was an article somewhere I've seen, or some blog or something from, it might be the same guy, I don't know. But somebody who did track the oh, that's right, I think Thud's behind. Just seen Thud commenting saying no sound, but I think he's possibly a bit behind. Yeah, I've seen somebody mention about tracking the Apollo 11 using tracking the radio. And obviously could only actually get a fix on Apollo 11 when they pointed it at the moon and not orbiting around like Bart Cybrell seems to think they did. The other one I quite like is Apollo 8 as a bring up. Where's their TLI? So on Apollo 8, which was the first Apollo mission to send humans as far as the moon, it was, I believe, yes, Bill Perry from the Smithsonian actually went to, I think it was Hawaii, the observatory in Hawaii, and actually captured the translunar injection burn of Apollo 8, which, bearing in mind, Apollo 8 had took off from Florida and went away from Hawaii. So yeah, to get the TLI burn, I think it was actually a couple of hours later. I don't even think it was one orbit. They done a couple of orbits parked up there before the TLI. So yeah, it was yeah. If that wasn't Apollo 8, what the hell was it? Right. So, you know, I've been streaming for an hour and 40 minutes. I should probably get into talking about some bloody eclipses, seeing as how that was meant to be the point of this stream. So, yeah, eclipses obviously is something that screws flat Earth all day, every day, because how do eclipses work? How do they get predicted? Well, they don't. You use the globe. But then I mentioned the other day, so I'd seen in news outlets, there's a partial eclipse in the UK. All the news outlets are saying there's a partial eclipse in the UK. And then I had a look, and the partial eclipse is on March 29th, I think it is, the Saturday, which I'm not in the UK on that day. I'm going to be in Morocco. So I thought, oh, great, I'm going to miss it. And then I actually saw that the partial eclipse is also reaching Morocco, which is just not going to be as great an eclipse. It's not going to have as much coverage in Morocco as it is in the UK. So I thought, oh, interesting. So then I thought, I wonder where is the, like, kind of where covers the you know, if it's further north, is there somewhere that's getting a total eclipse? Turns out there's not, which is, well, it's strange if you go with the notion of the Earth being flat. Why can't I? I've broke my computer. I don't want that there. So, how do I do this? I need to change my screen, but no shortcut. Move to another screen. What is it? Windows Shift. I'm trying to bring up Stellarium here, but it's coming up on the wrong. Where? Learn to spell. I do apologise, everybody. It sounds like Rusty's gone downstairs. And if there's one thing I can tell you, Rusty can't open a door. So he will be barking in a minute because he can't get out. So I may have to go and rescue him in a minute if he so desires. So while he's not here, I'll put on this. So let's go for somewhere like Spain-ish. Wherever. Let's just get, I don't know, Barcelona, that'll do it. Where's my time? So 29th, and from memory it was about 11 o'clock, I think the eclipse is. There we go. So from Barcelona, you're getting just sort of the top of the sun is going to be obscured. Right? If you go to, let's say, up to Glasgow. Barglass? No. How does Glasgow not appear on... There we go. Now, Glasgow's going to get half the sun taken out. Now, if we come up to... What's this? About 74 north? Again, that's a good portion of the sun, but not a total eclipse. And then I thought, well, let's take it to the North Pole. Have I even got that to the North Pole, or have I just missed that? Where am I at there? That's all bloody same, isn't it? But I thought it was more than that when I last checked. Can I just put in North Pole? No, I can't. Oh well, 90s north, that's enough. The point is, when I was going through this, I was going through all these different locations. Evil Angel JS, Northern Spain is on the path of totality. I don't. It's not. It's not a total. So Northern Spain is here. And it's only getting, so that the moon's only going to sort of come in and skirt over the part of the sun, not all of it. Right? And if you come right the way up to very north, it's going to cover a good chunk of the there we go. I'm hearing Rusty in the background now barking. Now, the point is, what got me with this is the fact that I am going through moving to all these different locations here, right? Nowhere on Earth is seeing a total eclipse, only a partial. Which obviously I haven't even twigged, just does not work on a flat Earth. Because if you've got a sun and a moon over a flat Earth, there should be a shadow of totality cast somewhere. Where the hell is it? There is literally nowhere on Earth. And like, flat earthers will pull up Stellarium and say that Stellarium's data is accurate. There is literally not a spot on Earth that Stellarium will show you a total eclipse. And by that I mean, even if you remove the ground from view, the moon and sun will not completely overlay each other anywhere on Earth. Now, the reason for that is because the partial eclipse is, I did find a GIF for it to show, and I bloody closed the window. But the reason is because March partial eclipse, where's the path for it? Here we go. That's what I'm looking for. So the reason is because the shadow of the moon is literally casting just over the north of the globe. So the actual point of totality is presumably several hundred miles above the North Pole, which obviously we're not there to see. But the point is that on a flat Earth, there should be a path of totality somewhere, and it's not. It's non-existent. So yeah, I just thought that was quite a curious one for me, as to there should never be a partial solar eclipse. I mean, there should be areas of Earth where you see partial eclipses, while there is areas that there is a path of totality. But every eclipse on a flat Earth should have a path of totality somewhere, and yet I can't see anywhere where there is going to be a path of totality in March. So I don't know. Perhaps some flat earthers could work out for me where I can go in March to see the path of totality. I'm not holding my breath, but yeah, right. I'm hearing Rusty barking, which means he's now realised that he's gone downstairs, he's locked himself downstairs, and he can't get back up. So I am going to go and retrieve him. While I am gone, Icy Spin has just sent me, I think, one of the clips of Jaren and I having a discussion, which somebody was... I queued up one of your Jaren Convos random dinner. Let me just check. Where is this? You got a... oh, in fact, never mind. I'm clicking the wrong bit. Here we go. So I'm just going to play this little bit, which is Jaren and I having a conversation about the EQ mount, while I go and rescue Rusty. So I will be back in a moment.
So obviously, you've seen this in action. You know it tracks through tractions, right? Okay. This isn't like. Was yours guided? It guided itself.
Mine just looked to the sun, though. So
yeah, but as in, like, did you have to program it to guide it? It knew what it was looking for.
It's only for the sun.
Yeah, but what I mean is...
If the sun went behind that mountain, it would stop.
Right, but it knows it's looking at the sun, it's tracking the sun.
But it has nothing to do with mathematics or anything like that.
I don't mean mathematics.
Okay.
What I mean is am I right in thinking, because I wasn't familiar with yours, it recognised the sun. It knew that was the sun. It was...
So what it does is it gets its GPS location, and then it knows what
Right.
azimuth
So
to go to?
it knows where it is. It knows.
Well, it knows the azimuth, and then it spins around till it sees it.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it knows where it is. It knows what it's looking for, and it reacts to the movement.
The
of
brightness.
sun.
Right.
Right. Okay. So it's physically reacting to it.
Like if a cloud got in the way, it would
Okay.
stop. Yeah.
This thing.
Right. It knows.
No. This
Oh.
thing is completely dumb.
Right.
Right. There's an Ethernet port there for auto guide. I didn't have an Ethernet port attached to it. Okay. It's literally there's a dial there. Okay. So it's set off at the moment. Right. If I turn it to start, that rotates 15 degrees per hour. Okay, that's all it does, right? So this head will just rotate. If I put it up to,
Not 2356.
well, as in it's rotating at that sort of speed. So
Right.
might be too cold.
Okay.
But you can set different speeds. So I had it set not on start. I had it to solar.
Okay.
For the speed of the sun. Okay. So all this does is this whole section here rotates. Okay. That bit all stays rigid. This bit rotates round like that. Okay. That's all it does.
Okay.
Right. All I did when I set it up is I had to point it either directly north or directly south. So normally at home I'd point it north. Okay, get a compass on it, point it north. Obviously here I pointed it south.
Right, we're back. Rusty had... nature was calling, wasn't it? No, you're good now. Yeah, so this was the conversation that I was having with Jaren. It goes on for... yeah, there's a good couple of minutes, so I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm not going to play it now, but the timestamp for it was... in fact, you know what? I'll just throw in... there's the link to it if you wanted to finish the rest of the conversation off. But basically, if you've... The conversation I was having with Jaren there was the conversation that I had in... was just the video that I did recently about EQ mounts, the EQ mount challenge, basically, of explain this on a flat earth. It was putting that scenario to Jaren, which in fact, let me try and find, he brought up pretty perfectly the other week in one of his videos talking about it. And I'll see if I can find it actually, because it was really quite interesting to see that it clearly it sunk in with him. But I'll have to see if I can find it. Where did he... Was it that one? No. It was in one of his live streams he did recently. And he brought up somebody's flat earth map track thing that showed where the sun was supposed to be physically circling above an AE map versus where it appears to you in your dome of vision or whatever the hell they call it. And he dropped the marker on the equator and showed that on the equinox, the sun should be literally circling around the equator in a big loop, but you see it do a straight line like this. And he actually referenced that conversation that I had with him in Union Glacier about the EQ mount. And it was kind of all of that was sort of sinking into him there, seeing that on a map, showing that the camera's literally doing this on the equinox, and yet it should be sort of doing this, and it's not. So yeah, that was just quite nice to see that that conversation that we had at the time. He was the one that asked me. I'd mentioned about having the conversation with him and Austin a couple of times, but it was always, oh yeah, we'll do it later, we'll do it at some point. And I kind of figured they were just palming it off and weren't really interested. And then it was when we were on the last full day, after they told us that they were pulling us out a day early, and by that point it was sort of the wind was picking up, clouds were rolling in, we were just loitering around the camp basically, and they had bikes, these snow bike things at the camp that they've just said you're free to use them basically. So Jaren basically just went round to everyone and just goes, anyone fancy coming on the bikes for a bit, because they're here, we might as well use them, we're going home soon. So me and MC Toon jumped on the bikes with him, and then after we'd rode around the camp for a little bit, Jaren then just said, can you go through that EQ mount thing with, or that Alt-Az mount thing with me? I forgot there was an EQ mount, but yeah. I said, yeah, sure. So I walked back to my tent, got the EQ mount, we went and sat in the food tent, and so he prompted me to have the discussion with him, and he just sat and was asking the questions and wanting to actually understand how it all works. And I laid it out for him, and he was like, yeah, it's okay. Doesn't seem to make any sense, and evidently it's sunk in with him. So that's why I'm hoping, I'm confident that this moon landing stuff's going to be quite productive when we finally get around to it as well. Frank, $10 US. I've seen tons of flat Earth videos on Firmament lately. Have you ever pointed out that all the demos they performed were viewed outside of it, a place they claim to never be outside of? I've not personally pointed it out to him, because I've not covered any of the videos on it yet. But I know it has been pointed out to him. I remember Joe Hanvey's done quite a few with that kind of thing, and he was mentioning it. I think it was that big roundtable discussion that they had on Kingdom in Context the other week, and that they were talking about that, and Joe's excuse was, you can't do it from inside because the camera would be so far above the Earth that you would basically be like looking down on the Earth like God. So apparently that's less useful than viewing it from outside. More like he knows it doesn't work, so if he shows it inside, he shoots himself in the foot, which is why I wanted to get I want to find where to get a big Perspex dome from, because I've got somewhere one of the star projectors, so I want to project the stars onto a big Perspex dome with a 360 camera, and literally just sort of like drill a hole to have the 360 camera sticking just enough through that it is basically viewing from near enough ground level and showing how the stars would appear to move over a flat Earth, which is obviously nothing like they actually do move. The other idea I did have was doing that where I showed how the stars move over a flat Earth versus drilling a hole through the UK on a globe and sticking like a little camera through, so it setting up that if I was to just go outside here and point the camera straight up at the sky and just do a long exposure star trail, showing how the star trail looks, then making a miniaturized version with that and showing how the star trails look when the globe rotates, and then set it up that, well, what if it was star trails moving above a flat Earth? And obviously how they wouldn't work. But yeah, they're all ideas that I've got, just ones that I can't get round to it. Diver Dan, Navy Vet. Mikey Smith has photographed the firmament with his Samsung phone. Yes, Mikey Smith has got a very blurry photo of the firmament. I am going to do that at some point. I did think about doing that. It's just doing a video of doing some astrophotography and showing the results that you actually get when you focus up a camera properly, rather than what Mikey Smith constitutes as being in focus, which is blurry as all hell. Did actually have... Have I got any Astro stuff I can bring up? I did try and get some photos, Astro photos, but I didn't. Yeah, I've not really got any to hand to bring up. But yeah, that's an idea I've got for one. Icy Spin 199. Thanks, Dave, for that. And Emma's wonderful. Yes, it's a great song, Icy. Hopefully Emma catches up on this at some point, or you can let her know that I did play it for her. Valentin, are you filming this eclipse in March? I don't know, is the short answer. I'll be, from where I'm going to be in Morocco, it's only going to be a very small amount of the eclipse anyway. So it's not like anything close to totality that I'm going to see. It's literally just going to be a little bit of the sun skirting over. The problem I've got is the fact that it's happening on... Well, basically, the day that it's happening, we're booked on an excursion, sort of all of us as a family together. So I can't really stop and film the sun for several hours because, people might kill me. So I might try and I'll probably take... I've got the solar filter that Kent Faith sent out to me, which I used in Antarctica. I might take this with me. I'm not going to take the big lens, though, because we're limited on packing. So I might have a slight issue in that the filter is physically... I'll take this lens because this is a pretty decent lens for being able, in terms of like luggage allowance and stuff. The big lens is useless for a family holiday. But yeah, this filter's actually too big for it, so I might just wind up having to hold it over to get at least some photos maybe of the eclipse if we're stopped at a time and I can see it. I mean, you'd bloody think I've got the weather for it. I've already missed one eclipse this month because of clouds. I'll be damned if I'm missing another one. Gary, I'll get a cat lens. Small, long focus. Cat lens? You referring to mirror lens? Is that I've not heard the term cat lens before. Or am I just imagining things? Have I heard it something different? Not sure what you mean by cat lens, Gary. You think a mirror, like a refractor lens? Because I'll probably not bother with it. I probably wouldn't bother with a cat lens anyway. Oh, cat's eye optic lens. I'll double check what you mean by it. Just make sure we're on the same page here before I go saying something stupid. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was referred to them as mirror lenses, but yeah, I've not got one. Probably. I'm not. I probably won't bother because they're probably a good few £100, and I'd only get a chance to use it for this one scenario, basically, which just seems excessive. And I might consider it if it was a total, but for a partial, it's probably a bit too much. I'm hoping, I was discussing this in the stream in one of the streams the other day, hoping to get out to rent one. The other issue I've got, Gary, is the luggage limits and stuff. So when we're not taking, there's like 6 of us going. We've only got one case between all of us. So I've only got the backpack for my camera gear. And I've already got, so I'm going to have the camera, my main A7 IV. I'm taking my 28 to 75mm lens, which is the sort of general purpose lens. And then I'm going to have this one anyway. Because they're what I'll be able to use to generally get good, nice photos just throughout the holiday. Along with everything else that I'm going to take as well. So I think a cat lens, I'd probably struggle to fit a cat lens in without ditching some other stuff. And like I say, the eclipse is actually happening whilst we're in the middle of doing other stuff anyway. So, yeah. I'm hoping, all being well, the hope is to go out to Egypt in 2027 for the total eclipse. Go out to Luxor for a week and capture that. So that will be taking. I'll be taking a lot of the cameras with me for that one. I think if I'm doing that, I will probably take both of my A7s, the big 500mm lens with the filter, to get close-up views, and then do some wider shots that sort of incorporate the scenery from Luxor as well. Yeah. All being well, but we'll see. So yeah. Anyway, there's a fun old stream, isn't it? So yeah, basically the whole point of this stream was really to just go over the eclipse, and yeah, that eclipse ain't happening on a flat Earth. Partial eclipses should not exist on flat Earth. Yeah, and instead we've wound up reminiscing about all sorts of other things. Rusty's pulling his weight, obviously, of course. You've got 500mm cat, 5-inch long, not heavy at all. Yeah, I think it's just. I think, to be fair, Gary, the 180mm that I've got here. Sorry, 180mm. Need to get out of that habit. Nanu Busness, how should partial eclipses not exist on Flurf? If sun and moon are next to each other, there's no totality anywhere, is there? So, I should probably delve a bit deeper into that for you, Nanu. So, it depends on which argument you go with. If you're going with the notion of flat plane, sun and moon, same height, then there should never be eclipses, because the totality, the shadow cast from onto the shadow cast caused by the moon would always be straight out, so it would always be above the Earth. So there should never be an eclipse anywhere on a flat Earth if you go with that notion. If you go with different altitudes through magic, I mean, I know there will be flat earthers that go, oh, you're assuming it's the moon, but, you know, there's plenty of people who've done, where are they? I saw some great examples the other day. People who've taken photos of a total eclipse and you can literally see the face of the moon. Yeah, like... So obviously you've got a bit of view of that. So, you know, that's a total eclipse and that is obviously the moon. So, you know, the eclipses are the moon moving over the sun. So they can't be the same height. They'd have crashed into each other. So the moon has to be closer than the sun, which means over a flat Earth, there would be somewhere where there is a complete shadow caused by the moon. Like if you take a torch and you hold an object up in front of it, somewhere on your floor or on the table or wherever, somewhere there would be a shadow being cast. That over a flat surface, over a flat Earth, there would be a shadow cast being put somewhere. Whereas the reason we have partial eclipses on the globe is because the path of totality is actually missing Earth completely. So in the case of this one, in March, the path of totality is going above the North Pole. It's actually sort of off into space, above the North Pole. It's missing Earth. Which is why don't know why I was going over through in Stellarium going, where's totality going to be? There is none. But the thing is, if you look at an AE map, let's see if I can get it actually. I won't be able to. March partial eclipse. I wonder if I can make the path. Can I find the path on a Mercator map? If I could project it as an AE map. Right, I'll tell you what, I'll just bring this back up because that's as close as I'm getting to it. So, that is how the eclipse is happening based on a globe. Now, if you imagine that's an AE map, there would be a path of totality on an AE map because it's going over the North Pole. Because the eclipse is going across the north on a flat Earth, there's more Earth, there's more land out here. There should be a path of totality. There should be somewhere where there is an eclipse taking place. It's not there. And when I went through it on Stellarium, wherever that's gone, I literally went through everywhere. So even like out here in northern Russia, which is where it is then dark, you know, this is, if you imagine the AE map, this is on the far side of the North Pole. Sorry, Peter Will, very rare event in the thumbnail, Dave McKeegan shitting on flat. Well, it was actually meant to sort of sublime me sitting on flat Earth, but sure, if you want to go with shitting, you do that. So if I take away the ground here, so this is now, yeah, Stellarium from Russia. So, you know, even though they won't actually see any of an eclipse, if they could see through the ground, it would still only be partial. Or if I say, where else? So if I get right out onto maybe the edge of Alaska. Again, still not getting a total eclipse. There is nowhere on Earth that you can put a marker on Stellarium and it will show a total eclipse happening. Because the total eclipse is happening, is missing Earth entirely. But obviously that should not be the case with a flat Earth. There should be a location over flat Earth where if there's an eclipse hitting flat Earth at all, there must be an area where there is a total eclipse happening, and it doesn't. So I just realized there's no way to eclipse even a little bit of the moon. Even a little bit if the moon isn't lower than the sun. So yeah, if there's some eclipses. Yeah, so there would either be no eclipse or it would always be a full eclipse and there would be somewhere where there would be a path of totality. Partial eclipses could never happen on a flat Earth. The other fun thing with this as well is the fact that, you know, we've just had the lunar eclipse where you've got sun. So where I couldn't see it, but obviously you've got the sun in one direction and the moon in the other direction, and now we're having a partial eclipse which is happening 2 weeks later, like half a half around. It's funny, you'd never get, like, on a flat Earth, why couldn't you have, like, a lunar eclipse and where am I going with this one? I'm trying to think this one out now before I say something wrong. It is 2 weeks, isn't it? When was the eclipse? Friday? Yeah, it's going to be 2 weeks, or 15 days, from lunar eclipse to partial eclipse, which is half a lunar cycle. So we've gone from full moon with a lunar eclipse round to new moon crossing in front of the sun. But yeah, anyway, point is, flat Earth eclipses, which was, yes, the whole point of this stream, flat Earth eclipsed. Flat Earth should either always be totally eclipsed or never eclipsed. Partial eclipses cannot work. So, March 29th is just yet another day that's going to break flat Earth. I'm just going to have a strepsil, everybody, just because if you've seen me doing live streams before, when I ramble on this much for this long, my throat does start to hurt. I could ask him to fill in for me, but he's not doing much at the minute. Brenda debates, on a flat Earth, wouldn't there be a solar eclipse almost all the time somewhere? Well, yes. There should always be... Well, I mean, no, technically not. I suppose it depends on how you argue the toss with this one. So you say, because there should always be a shadow casting somewhere, but it could well be if you've got... Where can I'll try and bring up Photoshop here just to visualize it a bit better. Wherever this is. So if you've got moon there, let's just make that a bit easier to see. Close enough. So if you've got that as the moon, and then you've got that as the sun, then I didn't want to do that. I wanted that as another layer. In fact, put that one back up. I'll just do it that way. I don't know. That didn't work. Oh well. So yeah, if you've got sun and moon, say, opposite sides like this, there would be a shadow being cast if they were at different altitudes. I'll tell you what, I can't see that properly. Let's go away. Let's change the perspective of this. So if you've got, say, these at different heights like here, that would cast a shadow like... It's not going to cast a yellow shadow, Dave. Come on. That would cast a shadow like somewhere here. But you would have that. But if you had the sun on... Where's it gone? This side of Earth, above the moon, then you'd be casting a shadow like way off over Antarctica. So into the I don't know. I mean, technically, you should then, I don't know, you'd start to see a shadow cast, you'd start to see the path of totality shining on the firmament or off in the lands beyond or wherever. So you wouldn't always have a constant shadow within the realm of Earth that we know. I'm going to say this like a flat earther now, just to be clear. The shadow cast might be somewhere off beyond the known world. But whenever you had a point where the sun and moon came close to each other, you would always have a path of totality somewhere. Like that would be, I don't know, say somewhere there. You'd always have a path of totality. You would never have a partial eclipse unless arguably you were saying that somehow it was a partial eclipse, like because of the path of totality was somewhere here and we were just catching the... What the hell did I just do? No, not that one. You're just catching, like, you know, you might see a partial eclipse here and the total eclipse is beyond the known world. But in the north, around the North Pole, you should always have a path of totality somewhere, because in this case, the path of totality is... Where did I see the path? I saw the path of totality somewhere. Yeah, so the path of totality is... What's that? Shaded area, semi-transparent, indicates places where... Can I get that into Photoshop and do something with it? So it's saying that is where the path of let's say, path of totality is. The shaded area is where the eclipse will be visible. Now, if I can remember how to do this, filter, distort polar coordinates, rectangular to polar. So that is the path of partial eclipse that is occurring on a flat Earth. There's no total, that's all partial. Which is the problem that they've got, is where the hell is the actual full shadow? Where is the path of totality? There should be somewhere where there is a path of totality, of which there isn't. There's just this random faded spot somewhere in the middle of a flat Earth. So, yeah. Is flat Earth getting eclipsed? No. And there is the problem. So, yeah, that answers that question. And as you can see, Rusty is elated as always. What are you... He does insist on sleeping in some awkward positions. Like, what the hell's going on with his leg there? Bizarre. On-screen chat has frozen. Interesting. Hang on. Let me try refreshing that. Is it on every... They all froze? Alright, hang on. Let me... Where's it gone? Oop. I'm crashing that. What am I doing? It's right there. Is that gonna... There we go. We're back up. I think. Oh, yeah. Anyway. Oh. We good? You, yeah? No. Right. So, where are we at? 11:30. I'm probably going to wrap this up soon anyway. I think, because in my infinite wisdom, as I did mention in the end of the Rusty feed I did the other day, yeah, I wasn't feeling at my best anyway, so I wasn't entirely sure if I was going to be streaming or not. And then for the F1 season starts again this weekend in Australia. Bloody time zones. So the race for me starts at 4 a.m. So I was going to be setting an alarm to wake up at 4 to watch it. So, yeah. I kind of was in two minds of, do I stream and miss the race? Or do I not stream and get some sleep to watch the race? Given that I'm not feeling too great. So I decided in my infinite wisdom, I know, I'll stream anyway and then not get a lot of sleep and wake up and watch the F1. So, yeah. I'm probably going to be wrapping this up, I think. Hello. I'll share this as well, just because I had a notification about this, and it's if you're not part of this channel, it's good to watch. So, this is, you can't even see it. Appa ISS. I don't know how you actually pronounce it, but it's they go live every now and again. I'll link it here so you can see it if you wish to. But this is a great channel. I got subscribed to ages ago. And they every now and again, they just go live with feeds from the ISS. It's not always, not always live. Sometimes it ends up going into a repeat. But these are great when it is live. That you can actually see, like, where the ISS is. With the camera views and everything. So I've used stuff like this before when I've done the videos where I've compared up the satellite imagery and the weather records to the ISS, and then you can see these sorts of live feeds, and you can go, oh, would you look at that? As if by magic, this live feed stream of the ISS right now is matching what the weather radars say the weather's looking like. It's like real-time CGI. That's impressive. I'd be tempted to do it now, literally just bring up the weather radars now, but obviously there's where's that? The ISS is going over Saudi Arabia at the moment, which means it's out in the dark and it can't actually see, or you can't see on the camera. But yeah, so anyway, with that, I think we're all up to date on the super chats. I did read that one out. I've not missed any, have I? Nanu, that demonstration was great. I think it will make some people think twice. Well, hopefully. Like I said, it was just, I don't know why. Hey! Jaren's in the chat. Hey, Jaren, how you doing, mate? Yes. Very much looking forward to our moon discussions, Jaren. We'll just have to work out some times. I did send you a message, I think, the other day. I know you were talking about some of the head's gone. What am I thinking? What am I thinking? What am I thinking? The mountains, repeating backgrounds, which I've seen some people bring up before. I know I've covered it at some point before. But if you have any specific examples, photos, if you could just send me what photo codes they are, just so I can pull them up myself to have a look through them. But yeah. So, Rusty's, I think it might be able to catch his. He's somewhere down here. You had enough, dog? That's how you know he's had enough. And you say dog and he doesn't answer you. Oh, come on, Jaren. Where's the best place to reach you? You're not on Telegram, right? I'm literally in a group chat with you and IC Spin. Go. I'll send you a message on Telegram right now. I got Telegram. I wasn't on Telegram when we went to Antarctica, when we were in Punta. Everybody else was on Telegram. I didn't have Telegram. I didn't have an account. I was just like, I'm sticking to WhatsApp. Jaren didn't do WhatsApp, so basically we wound up in like 2 separate group chats that we'd all just go back and forth. Yes, yes. So as Jaren is now saying, what Will said you weren't. Yes. So I didn't have Telegram at the time of TFE. So I wasn't in the TFE group chat. I was in a WhatsApp one, which Jaren wasn't in, and a few other people weren't. So it was basically like there was these 2 separate group chats that were going back and forth. So Jaren didn't have a way of directly reaching out to me. Then when all this conversation started up, IC Spin had reached out to me about this whole me and Jaren thing. So I then joined into Telegram so that I could then be able to communicate with Jaren. So I'm literally in a group chat with IC Spin and Jaren, where I tagged him in a message the other day asking for these things. Ah, Jaren, you're a legend. I guess it could be an imposter. Yeah, it might not actually be me. Yeah. I'll work it out later. I'm too tired. I can't be doing multiple things at once. I'm talking about it now. We're all there now. You're all where now? What? Who? What? I don't know. I am too tired for this. I'm like I say, I'm planning on waking up in like 4 hours to watch the F1. Although, why am I doing that? He's still in view. I mean, shit, Jaren, if you want to stream now, mate, we could just fucking jump in now and start doing it, but I don't know what you're doing. Although to be fair, actually, Valentin, who am I supporting in the F1? Do you know, I don't know. I'm in 2 minds. I say I'm in 2 minds. I do for my sins very much like Verstappen because he is a hell of a driver. I know people don't like a lot of his antics and stuff, but I grew up as a massive Michael Schumacher fan. In fact, do you know what? While I'm in the... Bear with me a second. Let me find something. So, let me get that in frame. So that is me. What was that? 96. When the hell was that? 29 years ago? When I were just a wee lad and I actually met Eddie Irvine and he signed that for me. And you know what? I was absolutely fuming because it was supposed to be Michael Schumacher at the bloody... it was supposed to be Michael Schumacher at the event, so I was dead excited that I was going to get to meet him. And then he cancelled fairly last minute because he decided he was going to stay in Italy to do some extra testing on the car because that year's car was shit. And so they sent Eddie Irvine instead, which, you know, most people would be thrilled you get to meet an F1 driver, and it was quite nice, but yeah, so I was a massive typical Shuey move. Yeah, he was he was a workaholic, old Schumacher. So yeah, I was a massive Schumacher fan all through F1. I started watching F1 1995. And I was a Schumacher fan from then. So there's a lot of Schumacher's style that I see in Verstappen, so I quite like Verstappen. But then obviously because I was a Schumacher fan, there's also part of me that likes it when Ferrari does well. So yeah, I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm in two minds, and I think I'd just like to see a season that's not dominated by one person, to be fair. Hey, Jaren's found me. So yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of, as long as it's an interesting season, I don't really mind who wins ultimately. I've not got a particular allegiance this year. I think part of me likes to root for the underdog. It's like when they did the 2021 season. Was when I was really rooting for Verstappen just because I was bored of seeing Hamilton win year after year after year. So, what's that? Bor2M for 20 DKK. Do you have a dedicated Astro cam? No, I don't actually. I don't. It's kind of a double-edged sword. I don't get the time to do much Astro these days. So I don't. I've not spent the money to get a dedicated Astro camera to for it. Plus, a lot of the Astro photography that I like to do isn't always the deep space stuff. It's I like to do sort of landscape night sky stuff. Can I find somewhere some examples to show you? Because, you know, why not? So I'll show these. I know I showed these off last stream, but obviously there might be people who weren't watching last time that were watching this time. So, yep. Where's my screen share? So like this, for example. I took this a couple of years ago in Northern Ireland, which is obviously me and the night sky. And on the same night, I took this. So this is, I went to a place called Monet Castle, and this is sort of, you know, the starry night over Monet Castle. Completely unrelated to astrophotography, but hey, sod it. I'll share you this one as well, which I quite like. Which is, this is the red arrows flying across the sun. This was an air show that I can't even remember which one. But yeah, I managed to get them as they flew overhead. over the in front of the sun, and it was sort of a partly overcast day as well. So you've obviously got this cloud around the outside of it that makes it look like an eyeball, strangely enough. But thinking about it, I probably should have used this in some of my recent videos because, you know, you've got the sun glistening off what is there, the side of the plane, because the sun's coming in from that particular angle. But yeah, I got one a couple of years back from, where the hell was it called? Oh, I think I deleted the video. Ribblehead. Ribblehead? Probably won't be able to find the picture now. Let's see if I can find it. You just talk amongst yourselves for a minute while I just work out where the hell this thing is, because I know I put it somewhere. Problem is, I make a load of folders, and then I just call them all photos, so I can't actually remember where the bloody photos are. Was it portfolio? Ah, that was it. Let me... Where are you? Come on, anytime today. This one. So I took this one at Ribblehead Valley Viaduct. I think this was actually 2019, 2020. So yeah, this kind of night sky astro photography is the kind of stuff that I quite like, where it incorporates some of the landscape as well. I have done a few where I've captured... what did I get? I got somewhere. Oh, there it is. Go away. So I got Andromeda a couple of years ago. It's not the best shot. Quite heavily cropped in. Wasn't on a telescope. And it was just a regular SLR with all the filters still in place as well. So it's not as good as it could have been. But what I did do was a few years ago, I bought a little... Can't even remember what model of camera it was now. Oh, it was a little Canon EOS M. The very first mirrorless that they did. And I removed the infrared filter from it. I removed the filters from it to make it full spectrum so that I could mount it on a telescope. So that's the Orion Nebula shot with that. So I've not got a specific astro camera where it's literally just like a sensor attached to a heatsink. But I have had a full spectrum camera to sorry. Apologies, getting distracted by messages. What's going on in the chat? Anyway, I don't know. Yeah, so I had that a couple of years ago. But not anymore. I did consider ripping the filters out of my A7 III because I don't really use the A7 III anymore. Well, I say I don't. I wasn't using the A7 III, and now it's, you know, become rusty B cam. But I did consider converting that camera to full spectrum for doing some astro. But the problem is where I am, there's quite a lot of light pollution, and it's quite a trek for me to get away from light pollution. But then obviously with the kids and everything. I don't have the opportunity as much nowadays to, yeah, Sony A7 III. So this one, no, that one is the A7 III, and that one is the A7 IV, and this one's the A6400. But the A7 III was my main camera until I got the 4 and then replaced it. So the 3 is really more kept now for just sort of the 3 is more as a backup now in case something goes wrong with the 4, which realistically is unlikely to happen. So I considered removing the filters from the A7 III to do some Astro stuff, but yeah, it's just finding the time to do it is the problem. So I don't know. Who knows? I might do it. I might try and do it. I think somebody. Oh, yeah, Slithery. Do you have any deep? Do you have any pictures of the deep space field? I've not got any deep space stuff. I've not done anything for a while, to be honest. I did. I get. Is that going to pull up? So this is the last time that I did anything deep spaced. So this is. That's Andromeda there. But that's only one frame of Andromeda. I tried taking a few with the scope, and then the weather turned bad. And oh no, I was trying to get the telescope that I was using at the time. It wasn't my telescope. I'd borrowed it, and I was trying to get it set up and tracking. And I think it had a dodgy motor on it because some of the shots it would track fine, and then some of the shots weren't quite right. So I don't think the motor was moving consistently. So yeah, that's a frame of Andromeda, and usually you would take lots of images like this and then merge them all together, which is where you would then wind up with something like that, which I can't even remember from memory how many photos that was. That wasn't even tracked, I don't think. It's not got the details from it, but that was, from memory, I shot that with a Canon 7D Mark II with a Sigma 120 to 300 millimeter f2.8. So I was basically shooting at 300 millimeter f2.8 to get as much light in as possible. But Andromeda was fairly small within the frame, so I did take a lot of images and stack them all together. And it's when you stack them that you really then start to pick out the details within the likes of Andromeda. But yeah, I kept saying to myself, I'm going to do it. I'm going to capture Andromeda. I'm going to... There we go. I thought I'll get Andromeda this year, and then I had the mindset of get Andromeda this year. But I am kind of restricted with Andromeda. It's a bit of a shame because yeah, Andromeda's not visible for me all year round for some strange reason. There's times of the year where it's below the horizon, which is odd because flat earthers constantly say that these stars never change, and yet there's only certain times of the year that I can get Andromeda, which is a pain in the ass. Did I just see... Did I get any captures of Comet C? Yeah, I did... I believe. I just can't remember what I did with it. I remember I went and found it. I remember I did go up to get it up onto up on top of a hill near where I was at the time to get a photo of it, and tell you what, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna try and find that comet photo because I'm sure I've got it somewhere. While I'm doing that, here's a random photo that I got of lightning out of my window, you know, because, oh, bloody because. I'm sure I had the comet photo somewhere. I just can't remember. Ooh. Right. Apologies, everyone. I've got sidetracked. I've just, in trying to find, I was trying to find the comet photo, and then I've just stumbled upon this, which is something I put on my Google Drive folder 3 years ago about all the photography techniques and equipment done on Apollo, which I think from memory might be something to do with, I think I might have saved it because there was a really interesting point about how they'd processed the film and how they stored it all. Yeah, there's another photo of some more lightning as well. Just because. There's a cheap way if you want to capture lightning. By the way, there's a really cheap way of doing it, which is you basically just put your camera constantly shooting frames, and then you leave it, and eventually it happens. It's basically a concept of if you throw enough shit, some sticks. Where in the hell did I put that? I'll have to add that to the list of things that I've got to find. I know I went and got one photo of it. I didn't get many. I got a photo of it, but I can't actually remember where I saved it. Never mind. Yes, I can. Dave the Bellend. You would think I'd look for the folder called Comet. No, apparently that one's too much for me. There we are. Comet Neowise. So I couldn't get a proper view of it because the clouds were rolling by. In fact, at one point, I completely missed the bleeding comet because I was looking several degrees in the wrong direction and thought a fucking star was it for a few minutes. But yes, that was Comet Neowise. From, like I said, up where I used to live. I went and trekked up a big hill so I could try and get a clearer view of it. Gary Io, I just used to leave the shutter open for a couple of minutes for lightning photos. Yeah, that's pretty much what I do, Gary. Somewhere, although I don't know where because I had it in Antarctica. In fact, no, I didn't. Yeah, I did. I had a shutter release cable, but then I didn't actually use it because the Sony cameras now have a built-in intervalometer, so you can basically just set them up to say, I want you to take a shot X number of seconds, every X number of seconds for however long, or for however many photos, which is what I did for the time lapses in Antarctica for the solar photos. I just said take a photo every 60 seconds and you just keep going. So I think I took a shutter release cable with as a potential of using it, but I never actually did. I just set it intervalometered. But yeah, usually what I would do is just have the release cable in the camera, and then I would just set the camera up, pointing towards the sky, start firing, and then wait until there was a flash, and then turn it off. And usually what would happen is, you'd see a flash of lightning and you think, oh, great, get the camera set up. Oh, miss that one. Right, okay, yeah, and go. And then it's just for 15 minutes and nothing happens. And then you think, oh, well, never mind, turn it off. And then bang. As soon as you turn it off, there's another one. What exposure did I use for the lightning? Good question. Where be the photos? That one was 3 seconds. So that was every 3 seconds, because you don't want a really fast shutter for lightning, because obviously the lightning itself can take like a fraction, more than a hundredth of a second or whatever to actually hang around in the sky and fork out completely. So when it's really dark, which obviously usually is when there's lightning about because it goes all cloudy, when it's really dark, I tend to just put a couple of seconds, so it gives time for the lightning to properly spread out. And I think, yeah, this one was 6 seconds. I did even get, what's this one? Time-lapse video. Oh, yeah, here we go. I even took a time-lapse of lightning rolling by. These were years ago, this. This was just as there was a storm rolling through. What the hell that was. And then it just buggered off and well, it was more got the best shot at the start, and then it kind of just faded away. So I think I missed it, but what? Where's that going? Where's that? What the hell am I hearing? I've got something playing music in my ear and I can't, well, what? Ah. ISS stream had started playing music in the background. Silks666, why do I get black bands across the image when I'm taking lightning photos? Black bands as in... That sounds like it's possibly too fast of a shutter speed. Probably. I know you get black bands at times if you're firing with like a flash gun and you've got the camera shutter speed too fast. You get a band where part of the sensor's capturing, because a sensor doesn't capture all the pixels at the same time. It kind of has to run through line by line quickly, but still line by line. So there's a slight delay between the first line of pixels to the last line of pixels being read. So if depending on the shutter speed that you're shooting with, if the light is firing as it's starting to read and then stops firing before it's finished, then you wind up with these bands. So yeah, I would probably say if you go with a slower shutter speed, the band should disappear. Unless... Oh no, you said specifically lightning. I was going to say you quite often get it as well if you're shooting indoors. Although no, that's mechanical shutter. Never mind. If you're shooting mirrorless, I get on my mirrorless, if I shoot with the electronic shutter, so it doesn't drop a mechanical shutter in front of the sensor. Yeah, rolling shutter essentially. So to go all nerdy, if your camera has a mechanical shutter that it is using, then the shutter opens. The sensor is discharged, the shutter pulls out the way to expose the sensor, then when it's ready to finish, it drops the shutter to black out the sensor, and then it reads all the lines. If you're using a mode or a camera that isn't using a mechanical shutter, then it's trying to read the lines as it's still being exposed to light, and then you get rolling shutter, or banding as it's also known, where quite often you see it in indoor photos. A lot of lights will flicker slightly, so they're not a constant brightness, even though to your eyes they appear it. They're actually flickering slightly. So as the camera sensor is reading line by line, it'd be like a couple of lines where the light's slightly brighter, then a couple of lines where it's dimmer, and then brighter, and then dimmer. So you wind up with these uneven exposures of uneven bands of exposure across the sensor. So it could be something like that. Leaf shutter can sync at any speed. Focal plane shutter as a maximum, typically 1/60th, 1/25th. Yes, basically. So yeah, it depended on what your if it's lightning you're trying to capture and you've got the shutter into the hundredths of a second, it's probably that. And I would say just go with go with 2 or 3 seconds. Plus 2 or 3 seconds gives you a longer window for capturing the lightning as well. And if you're trying to get some of the scenery in, like if it's at night, you're in the dark, a very short shutter, you're not going to get any of the scenery, or much of the scenery anyway. It'll be more just the lightning in the sky. Whereas if you go with a longer exposure, it gives it time to get some more of the ambient light in as well. So sorry to everybody else, I'm just nerding out on cameras here. You know, feel free to ask me anything else related to anything else. Or actually looking at the time, seeing as how it's midnight and I'm supposed to be waking up in less than 4 hours. Yeah, I should probably wrap things up, I think. I have been streaming for 3 hours, to be fair. And Rusty's decidedly disinterested. And I do need to get some rest and get myself better, because I need to finish up the video that I'm working on. I'll give you a sneak peek. Well, I'll say a sneak peek. I can't give you a sneak peek. I'm not actually... Hello. So the video that I'm working on now, is actually regarding Apollo 13. As a what's the term? Like a thought experiment, basically. I did a video a couple of months back about Apollo 11. I called it why faking Apollo 11 doesn't make any sense. But actually the video was more about Apollo 10, because what I put forward was, if they faked going to the moon, if Apollo 11 was fake, then all the Apollo missions were fake. Which means Apollo 10, that happened only a few months before Apollo 11, that would also be faked. But then that would mean that they faked 3 guys going all the way to lunar orbit, descending most of the way to the moon, and then not landing on the moon because reasons. Obviously, official narrative, it makes perfect sense. It was a dress rehearsal. They didn't want to go through the full... They basically wanted to do everything up to the point of actually getting onto the moon and doing everything on the moon. They wanted all of that tested, done beforehand, to make sure that basically the only thing that they had to tackle on Apollo 11 that was uncharted territory was the actual land moon and being on the moon. So I put forward that if they were faking, if they weren't actually going to the moon, Apollo 10 was pointless. If they were faking it all anyway, why didn't they just have Apollo 10 go to the moon? They'd already had a mission that flew to lunar orbit. They already had a mission that tested the lunar module out, so there's no reason why they couldn't have just landed on the moon or faked landing on the moon on Apollo 10. So that was the point of that video, was the narrative of Apollo 10 does not make any sense if they're faking all the Apollo program. So I'm taking that and applying it all to Apollo 13 as well, because the events of Apollo 13 and the way things panned out does not make any sense if it didn't actually happen. So that is what I am currently working on writing a script on. That was what I was working on yesterday when I was doing the 24-hour stream. Unfortunately, I kind of kept getting distracted by the stream and changing the camera around to follow Rusty, who has once again departed to the floor. So I'd had intended on, I'll just have the Rusty stream running in the background while I write this script up. And then I didn't actually get much of the script wrote because I was distracted by the 4.5-hour stream that I did of Rusty sleeping in a chair / floor / climbing all over me, that everyone, or most people, seem to really love. Yeah, Nicky he does. Bless him. He does get too warm on that chair at times, which he particularly doesn't. He quite often climbs down when I'm filming. But the problem is he seems to be split in two minds of he does not want to be not sitting next to me, but he also doesn't. He doesn't want to be sitting next to me because I'm too hot. But then he also doesn't not want to be sitting next to me. So he then, he gets off and then he lies down and then he sits back up almost immediately. And then he's kind of looking at me like, I shouldn't have done that. So then he gets back up and, yeah. So I'll probably do another Rusty stream, at least one, who knows, maybe some more, during next week. Like I said, the week after I'm away, so there won't be any streams or anything there. But I might try to do a couple of a Rusty stream or two next week, whilst I'm trying to get this video done. But we'll see. I'm seeing somebody asking me about, do I have a Discord server? No, unfortunately I don't at the moment. I'm on Discord. Well, I have a Discord account. I'm on a couple of MC Toon and FTFE servers and stuff. But to be honest, I don't really do much on Discord. Discord for me, typically at the moment, is more just a way for people DMing me. Usually because if I'm joining into other people's live streams, they send me the links through Discord. But Gary IO, £10. Up to sync speed on a focal plane shutter, the full frame is exposed. Above sync speed, the focal plane shutter becomes a travelling slit, hence black bands. Yes. Mystery Man became a fan of Rusty and then gifted 5 memberships as well, which means there's 5 more people who've become fans of Rusty, whether they like it or not. And then DSE for £5. Last quick one. I use an Olympus 100E for transport photos. One cool thing is dot sight framing for finding zoomed in subject. Also, do you use Flickr? No, I don't actually use Flickr. I used to be on Instagram. But my Instagram account was linked to my Facebook account, and then my Facebook account got hacked and removed, so I then lost my Instagram account as well. So, but that was a couple of years ago, and I didn't really do much with it, to be honest. So I kind of just, yeah, I wasn't too bothered by it. It was a bit frustrating, but I wasn't overly bothered. And then yeah, I was kind of half glad at the time that I lost Facebook as well, because I did used to just spend way too long arguing about conspiracy theories, and look at me now. Should you see somebody else message me a question as well? I'm sure somebody, did I imagine it? Sure somebody asked about, I'm sure I saw some mention of cannon fly by the window. But I can't find it now. I'm sure somebody just... Oh, yeah. Yeah, there we are. Tinkering Geek. Do you ever regret switching from Canon to Nikon? Well, no, because I didn't switch from Canon to Nikon. I switched from Canon to Sony. Although I do now own, technically, a Nikon. But no, I don't regret it because... Oh, overhead cam's died. I forgot to plug the power back in before. Apologies. You're just going to have to go with an empty chair until he decides he's moving. No, because when I didn't have any allegiance specifically. When I first got a DSLR, Sony wasn't really part of the game at that point. The choice was really Canon or Nikon. Nicky is... I do apologise, Nicky. I could tell him to get off his arse and come back up to his chair, but he's not going to listen to me. Yeah, when I first got a DSLR, the choice was pretty much Canon or Nikon. And the general consensus at the time was that just for photos, Nikon was better, but for video, Canon was better. And at the time, I was doing both, so I thought, I'll go with Canon. So I basically built myself up on the Canon system for a few years, but their video stuff, they kind of just... They stopped innovating, really. They were... They were playing like the Apple kind of tactic nowadays of drip feeding stuff out and leaving all the good stuff for the really high end stuff that was way too expensive. So when it comes to like video, I had the Canon 5D Mark III, which was a great camera from a photography aspect. Great camera. Video quality for at the time looked pretty good, but it couldn't autofocus in video. So you had to manually focus everything. And it was only 1080 video, 1080p video. And then I found myself in a position where I had the Canon 5D Mark IIIs, had the Canon 7D Mark II, and it was kind of I was using in my head, I had the full frame of the 5D Mark III, which was much better image quality, but not as good for fast action stuff. And then the 7D Mark II, which was more of like a sports focused camera. So I thought, Canon did sell the 1DX, which was like best of both worlds, but it was like $4,000 and this was a few years back. No way in hell I was buying that. So I just thought, in my head, I thought 5D Mark III for when I just want like for weddings or whatever, and when it's sports and wildlife, 7D Mark II. And then I basically just constantly found myself using the 5D Mark III and thinking, I wish this thing was just a bit faster. And I was shooting video on a Canon M3 mirrorless. It's like a tiny little mirrorless camera, which I had to get because it had the flip-up screen, which with the DSLRs, they were rigid screens. I had no way of being able to see me to know that I was framed up properly or anything. And it was all just a bit of a ball ache. And there was a guy that I used to work with who was shooting Sony, had been shooting Sony for a few years, and he kept saying raving about how good Sony was, and all I was ever hearing from it was they overheat and the battery life's crap. But this was when they were on the first and second generation of the A7s. And then the A7 III dropped, and I was like, holy crap, that is basically my ideal camera. Like, it had the image quality side from the 5D, but it had the speed of the A7, and I thought of the 7D, and I thought I'm going with that. Plus, I was shooting weddings, and I can't remember. I might have a photo somewhere of the shit I was carrying around with me. For a wedding, for taking to weddings, it was. Let me see if I can find. I'm sure I've got a photo lurking somewhere. If I can remember where I put anything these days. Oh no, I know where it'll be. Bear with me 1 second while I try and find this. Basically, when I was doing weddings, because at the time I was doing, let's say, not like, it wasn't like full time, but I was doing a fair few. And I used to just have to carry so much stuff with me. So there it is. Let me bring that up. So this is what I used to carry around with me at weddings. So this is, what we've got there. So that's two 5Ds, 5D Mark IIIs and a 7D Mark II. Then I had these 4 Sigma lenses, which were all f1.4 primes, and a 70-200 f2.8. And then these 2 light triggers as well, and the radio triggers for them, and some spare batteries just in case. All in this big bag, and it was just so bleeding heavy because those lenses and them cameras were very heavy. And it was doing my back in having to carry it around everywhere. And so the appeal of mirrorless, I thought, like, they're so much smaller and lighter to carry around. That, yeah, it's crazy, the weight difference when you add it all up. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I worked it out. It was close to half the weight. Once I'd switched all of the lenses from the big lenses, the big DSLR lenses, to the smaller mirrorless lenses, it was about half the weight I was then carrying around with me, which just made it so much easier. When I'm doing a wedding that was like 10, 12 hours, I just, by the end of it, normally I was exhausted. My back was killing me, whereas like, having switched, it wasn't the case. And then actually, for a good few years after that switch, like, loads of people were like, oh, why don't you just wait for Canon to bring out mirrorless? Because, the Sony stuff is here and now, and plus the Sony cameras do more on video that, like all the Canon cameras at the time, that the cameras that I had, all of them only recorded for 30 minutes. It was an EU tax rule thing that basically all cameras, if it recorded video for less than 30 minutes, you could constitute it as a camera. If it recorded for more than 30 minutes, it constituted a camcorder and was subject to more tax. So all camera manufacturers put this 29-minute, 59-second limit in, that it stopped recording after that. So I remember I'd film videos and I would have to stop the camera and then start it again before the 30-minute limit. Otherwise it would just stop recording completely unannounced. It wouldn't like ping to tell you. It would just be it stops recording, you carry on waffling, I get it onto the computer and then think, oh shit, the last like 5 minutes of this is missing. Which, after they changed the tax rules, Sony dropped those 30-minute limits. Canon didn't do it for ages, which was a ball ache. But yeah, I think so. Even now, I think there's nothing that, I mean, the cameras that I've got, there's nothing that about them that I'm thinking I wish it did this or I wish it did that. Actually, that's not strictly true. I do keep wishing that Sigma would bring out a mirrorless 120 to 300 millimeter f2.8, because I had that on DSLR, and it was a bloody awesome lens. It was just very heavy. Somewhere, you know, crazily enough, I think I have. In fact, the very bleeding picture that I have as my profile on YouTube, that is the Sigma 120 to 300 millimeter f2.8 on a, that's the Canon 5D. Yeah, there's a reason that even with two hands, the bleeding monopod is bending, and I am tensed up like hell to hold that thing out because it was freaking heavy. It was breaking everything. It was heavy, but it was a damn good lens, and so I really wish they brought out a mirrorless version of it that maybe made it smaller and lighter. In fact, you know what? I've just found this one as well. Just as one last video, and then I'm going to sign out of here because I've been going on for too long. I know this is, where the hell is this? The Big Cat Sanctuary down south somewhere. I only spotted it because that is the same Sigma lens that I'm kneeling on. But this was one of the cheaters. They don't. That is just the corner of the enclosure. It's not like some tiny little cage that this thing was stuck in. They had like a massive big enclosure to go in. But for whatever reason, this one just came over. I was sat next to the fence taking pictures, and then this cheater just came over and sat with me, and I just basically stopped shooting. I couldn't shoot. I had a 120mm minimum focal length. I couldn't get a picture if I wanted to. But it literally just came right up to me. And yeah, I was just stopped while I was taking those pictures. I stopped taking pictures. I just sat there, and just for a good couple of minutes, I was just basically having this fucking moment of staring at a cheetah, thinking, thank fuck this fence is here, because otherwise I'll be in trouble. Yes, anyway, right, so I'm going to wrap it up now, everybody, because it is 12:30. I've been streaming for close to 3.5 hours. And yes, I've got all of 3 hours sleep before I'm going to wake up to watch the F1. And then I will probably fall asleep about 20 minutes after it starts, and wake up after somebody has won. But normally I might just be inclined to go, to hell with it. I'm not getting up at that time in the morning. But I am also mindful that it is supposed to be apparently wet in Sydney. Not Sydney. Yes, Sydney. Albert Park, yeah. No. Oh, fucking I'm too Melbourne. Sydney. My head's fried. Yes, Melbourne. I know. I don't know why I'm thinking it's not Adelaide, it's Sydney. No, it's not. It's in Melbourne. So yeah, it's meant to be wet, which could make it incredibly interesting. So I feel I owe it to myself. Rusty. Hello. Dog. Hi, sorry to disturb you. Could you come and say goodbye to all your fans, please? Any chance? Yes? Maybe? I'm sure you can hear the tail banging. Come on. Yes, you. Don't just... He's now just rolled over for belly rubs. Rusty, come here. Are you a dog or are you a donkey? That is the question. Right. People, fans. Ow. Are you going to say goodbye? No, you're just going to fall off the chair, aren't you? God. This is why they say never work with kids or animals. Speaking of which... Speaking of which, keep your eye out on MC Toon's channel, I believe, for the top left nomination videos going live. Because I have 2 videos that I've had to make. One for Tom Palladino, who I was nominating, and then one for MC Toon, who my daughter's nominated. And so... let's just say Rusty is involved. Rusty and my daughter are both involved in the MC Toon video. It's well worth the watch. Yes, Mr. Toffee's Toon for top left. Please, please get MC Toon winning the top left, just because it would be so funny to actually see somebody have to accept the nomination. Have to accept the award. And he can wear the t-shirt. A couple more super chats just to wrap up, and then we'll get out of here. Gary Io, if you want to chat photography sometime, tap me up on Discord. I will, Gary. I'll have to remember to do that. But yes, that'll be good. And then Al26TC101's World of Radio. You are now a legend for the Antarctic trip. Sorry for the long name. It's my CB Call Radio and channel name. Also, I have a dog cam when I go live. Well, thank you very much for that, Al. Yes, and speaking of dog cams, everyone, I will, like I said, I will put the Rusty cam up at least once next week. And just to be clear for everybody, just because I put the dog cam... Ow! Just because I put the dog stream up does not mean you are obligated to actually watch it. There did seem to be some confusion with people who, I don't know whether they thought there was a gun held to their heads and that they were made to watch a dog sleeping in a chair, because they seemed very unhappy about it. But yes. Right. Thank you, everyone who has joined. Are you okay, dog? I don't even know. Where are we at? Still 418 people watching me struggling to control the dog. So yes, thank you to everybody. And I will leave you with the Rusty outro, and we will see you in the next stream.
Rusty sits atop his big red chair, casting out looks without a care. With his sidekick Dave close at hand, teaching us about the globe. Sunspots or the new space probe, the daring duo will make their stand. Rusty lies in his big red chair, belly rubs legs up in the air. It's a clever ruse, to be sure. He may look sleepy, don't be deceived. Don't let your thoughts be preconceived. He can spring to life in a big red blur. Rusty has a nose for facts, a science-based directive. Battling conspiracy theories, a true canine detective. He can't be denied. So many have tried, so many have failed and ended up dejected, just like the fish John West rejected. So many of them to be corrected. sleeps in his big red chair. Those floppy ears still hear, I swear. He dreams of conspiracies to come. Dave leaves him be, he knows the score. It's action that this hound lives for, and his foes must all eventually succumb. Rusty has a nose for facts, a science-based directive, battling conspiracy theories like a true canine detective. He can't be denied. So many have tried, so many have failed and ended up dejected, just like the fish John West rejected. So many of them to be corrected. Yeah, too